give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make.
Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave.
Hey Internet friends, in part one of my What the Media Won't Tell You About the Maui Fire series, we covered the history of the sovereign kingdom of Hawaii and how the former capital city of that kingdom was ravaged by devastating fires on August 8, 2023. While the governor of Hawaii blamed the fires on climate change, and President Biden couldn't even be bothered to provide a comment on the tragedy, Lahaina locals insist there's more to this story than what's being reported by the media. In this video, it's my goal to cover all the underreported and unreported details. Here's what the media won't tell you about the Maui fires, Part 2.
Any comments on the rise and death toll in Maui?
Will you come talk about the Hawaii response, Mr. President?
On August 8th, the historic town of Lahaina on the island of Maui, a popular tourist spot, was destroyed by a fire that seemingly came out of nowhere, accompanied by high-speed winds which spread fire at a rapid rate, making evacuations difficult, if not impossible, leaving some locals to jump into the Pacific Ocean to escape the flames. As of today, August 16th, the death toll sits at 106 individuals. What they're calling wildfires started early in the morning, and many have reported that school was canceled, leaving children at home by themselves while parents went to work. I hope you understand I didn't want to say that in my first video because it's just so horrible. But for the search and rescue over the last week, it's been of high concern, of course, to the parents whose children are still missing. And there's been talk that the real numbers are being suppressed. Like I said in the previous video, even though Hawaii's 400 sirens make up what the state calls the biggest integrated outdoor all-hazard public safety warning system in the world, on the day of the fire, no sirens went off at all, alerting civilians to the danger. And to make matters worse, a state official held back on letting residents use water to protect their property from the fires. The fight over water went on for most of the day, and the water didn't arrive until it was too late. Quote, firefighters describe the wind-driven fires bearing down on Lahaina as being like a blowtorch. 25 to 30 firefighters were staring down at the flames as their hydrants went dry. End quote. So we've got no warning sirens that went off, power lines and internet that were down so people couldn't get warning alerts on their cell phones or televisions. And when the fire claimed Lahaina, people couldn't even turn on the water hose because there was no water. The fire hydrants were dry. Again, this strikes me as very odd, very weird, and obviously horrible. Because fires across Maui all popped up around the same time, just like they did with the Canadian wildfires early this year. And every system they had in place to protect and warn the people, they all failed. Maui Police Chief John Pelletier, who was the incident officer during the 2017 Las Vegas shooting, one of the biggest cover-ups in American history, estimated the number of missing people at approximately 1,000, though he cautioned that, honestly, we don't know.
No comment?
No comment right now, guys.
No comment? Talking to the chief, sir. Yeah. Why doesn't he want to speak to the people? Only to a camera. Why are you shaking your head, sir? You don't want to answer, huh? Okay.
We'll talk to you another time, guys.
Yeah, he won't talk to us another time. That's the thing. It's a very cowardly move. It's shocking.
In response to the devastation, President Biden wrote on Twitter on August 14th, quote, "We're laser focused on getting aid to survivors, including critical needs assistance, a one-time $700 payment per household, offering relief during an unimaginably difficult time." End quote. Laser focused, huh? Reported in Newsweek, quote, "Political opponents and commentators described the sum as insulting and compared it with the more than $113 billion worth of aid the U.S. has sent to Ukraine as it defends itself against an ongoing Russian invasion. On Monday, the government announced it was sending $200 million in defensive capabilities." End quote. They've sent hundreds of billions of dollars in aid throughout the year to Ukraine, but to our own citizens? $700 per household after they've lost everything?
This is footage earlier at Napili Park. I didn't feel safe
speaking freely about the situation while I was there, but the police are issuing permission slips for residents to freely come and go to their homes, to other parts of the island. Going to walk along the line, so you can see there are thousands of people here at this park. There were 2 separate locations where they told people to come get these permission slips, which would allow them to leave their houses, travel to other parts of the island that were unaffected, and return. Now, one very important thing to note with all of this is many of these people, including us, live approximately 20 minutes away from the fire, and we are very, very far away from
all right, let me see if I can
structure
upload
or
this
any
outro video.
Any building, car, anything like that.
I dropped a link to it before.
By the fire. We
I
watched
have it
the fire
unlisted.
from
I
very
did a
far
community
away.
thing with it.
I've interviewed people who cannot get their medication, and they're being given
Actually,
a choice of leave your house without being able to potentially come back and be homeless downtown, live in your car, whatever, and then you can get your medication. Then you can get the food you want to eat. Then you can get the water you want to drink, or stay here and eat the food that we designate.
There's one road in and one road out of Lahaina, and our own government is blocking aid to the victims of this fire. So those good Samaritans...
Let's pause this for a second. I'm going to show you guys. I'm just going to present it. Video file, there's... It's too big to load, so it's something I'm going to have to figure out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad. After her there ain't no coming back. Wanna take a run at that. I think she's feeling me, turn it up a few degrees. My imagination of her body gets the best of me. Oh gosh, she's such a tease, bitten lips, bruised knees. I'm addicted to her, need her touching me, cause she got a bad little waist. And we tearing down this place, off the liquor that we chase. Casamigos to the face, baby, I don't need no space. Coming closer for a taste, and I'll show you how I make everything just fade away. Cause she's like sex, drugs, cocaine, body so insane. Jealous of the clothing that she wears up on that tight frame. All game, no shame, baby came here to play. I feel like an addict cause she's sex, drugs, cocaine. Got a fine little body and her mind's kinda naughty. They say that once you taste it, you cannot replace it. She could get you high, all the dopamine inside triggers fast once she's naked. Her body's a creation. They say the devil made her for his entertainment, but even he couldn't learn how to contain it. Her high heels make a damn good statement. There is no replacement, a body by Satan. She got a bad little waist, and we tearing down this place. Off the liquor that we chase, Casamigos to the face, baby, I don't need no space. Coming closer for a taste, and I'll show you how I make everything just fade away. Cause she's like sex, drugs, cocaine, body so insane. Jealous of the clothing that she wears up on her tight frame. All game, no shame, baby came here to play. I feel like an addict cause she's sex, drugs, cocaine.
So that's it.
Samaritans who want to help are having to
It's not
travel
public yet.
by water
That's
to
the unlisted
distribute
one.
aid.
The Oklahoma ANC Dibs.
People doing
That's actually
everything
going to be the
that they
outro.
can. I'm
This is the
KIT
intro.
Force Jeremy Lee coming up. The effort here in Key.
It's similar. It was a early version of that. Where's it brand?
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make.
Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave.
So, yeah.
Key Heck improvised, in which people have just shown up to make sure that goods are ferried over from Key Heck over to Lahaina.
We wondered out loud in part 1 of this video if this would be a land grab. You know, never let a good crisis go to waste. And unfortunately, vultures are circling Lahaina, with the majority of the damaged structures being residential. Developers and investors are already contacting victims of the fire to make an offer on their land. We
Derek Dumas
speculated
did
that
that.
insurance companies wouldn't be able to insure the homes and businesses because of rapid inflation, and the average cost of a home in Maui being $1.2 million. The estimated devastation is $3.2 billion in insurance coverage. Many residents didn't have homeowners insurance because the homes were older, and according to some locals, a lot of the land ownership wasn't documented because it's native sacred land. So one can assume the insurance payouts, if they ever do happen, will be a total mess. Hawaiian Electric is a 100-year-old utility company that serves 95% of Hawaii. And the company is now being sued by a group of people because it's believed that its down power lines caused the deadly Lahaina fire. On August 15th, shares of Hawaiian Electric stock fell 31% because investors are worried about the company's possible liabilities after the wildfires in Maui. It's looking like they'll take the brunt of the blame for all of this. And like we said in the last video, will Hawaiian Electric be replaced to facilitate a clean energy system for a new smart city, like the World Economic Forum predicted back in 2018? Only time will tell. All of the other stories about how fires started, land mismanagement and government oversight, rumors of explosions, rumors of directed energy weapons have all been, quote unquote, debunked by fact checkers on social media websites before anything has ever been investigated to control whatever narrative they've got going on here. I even got censored last night on Instagram for talking about these theories and facts, even though I didn't endorse them directly. Apparently, you can't even read from government websites and say the military's AFRL's Directed Energy Directorate, which specializes in DEWs, as it says directly on their website, very plainly right up front here, is stationed right on Maui. Apparently, you can't say that the Maui site is called the Air Force Maui Optical Supercomputing Site. It's just not allowed. You also apparently can't say that in the aftermath of a wildfire when all the news has died down. The majority of insurance investigations say that humans are to blame for these wildfires, not lightning or climate change, but arson or accident. And that's what the media won't tell you about the Maui fires.
We are a community that relies on family.
Okay.
On ohana,
I've got some papers
whether by blood
that they want us
or by
you guys to
friendship.
take care of before we can proceed.
But like many others,
In a second.
my son's home burned down. My daughter's home burned down.
I don't want to compare difficulties, but we have a little sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. Years ago, now 15 years ago, I was in Washington doing Meet the Press. It was a sunny Sunday. And lightning struck at home on a little lake. It's outside of our home, not a lake, a big pond, and hit a wire and came up underneath our home into the heating ducts, the air conditioning duct. To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette.
Hey Internet friends, in previous videos I've given you the timeline of the Maui fires. We've documented the events that took place the day of the fires, called out the cast of characters associated with the safety and protection of Lahaina, and discussed a string of strange coincidences and anomalies around this tragedy. While I'm recording this, I'm showing you the updated Google Maps view of post-fire Lahaina. A few weeks have passed since the last installment of this series. Since then, I've been compiling and saving important clips, and I wanted to take some time and interview some Lahaina residents, some of whom are internet friends who lost everything. Additionally, I wanted to wait for government response and see what would emerge. The population of Lahaina is reportedly around 13,000, and as of this week, 1,000 people, including children, might still be missing. Here's what the Lahaina mayor said in response to questions of missing children.
Are there children that have been found, and is there any hesitance to announce that, because that'll obviously just be a different level of heartbreak?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. How many children are missing? You know.
I knew the answer to that. I'd be happy to answer that.
You have no estimate as to how many children are missing?
I guess we can end this right now if you guys want.
Sorry, this is one of the biggest questions that the people of Lahaina have, but you don't want to answer.
It always takes one or two to ruin it for everybody. Please, this is our first. It's not only.
Oh, we could say that about you. You ruined it for everyone.
You're welcome to say it. You're the media. You can say whatever you want.
You're a disaster.
The Maui department, okay? The press show is over. Okay?
So he's not gonna answer my
done.
question. Take pictures of me.
There's no need for that.
You're with Maui Police, right?
Yeah, he's done with the press conference.
Appreciate your patience.
Yeah.
Get out of my way. Who are you?
The Maui Police Department.
Okay, and what's my crime? You're literally pushing me.
The press conference is
I
over.
don't f***ing care.
Can I just say that, yes, we all hate gotcha journalism, but this was not gotcha journalism. This was a legitimate question and concern of many. And the body language, tone, and treatment of these questions from these individuals is not reflective of people who are saddened, shocked, or anything. They just look defensive. Like I mentioned in previous videos, it really looks like the Hawaiian Electric Company is going to take the blame for all of this. But one thing that needs to be said is that Hawaiian Electric wasn't responsible for not managing the dry tall grasses that served as an accelerant to the fire. Hawaiian Electric was not responsible for not sounding the sirens. Hawaiian Electric was not responsible for keeping the water from Lahaina during the fire's peak hours. Hawaiian Electric wasn't responsible for barricading the roads while people tried to flee, as reported by the Associated Press finally on August 24th, after many citizen interviews said that the roads were barricaded and blocked by police. And as far as I know, Hawaiian Electric wasn't responsible for the disaster crisis management in the aftermath. Let's take a closer look at some of the characters who were responsible for the aforementioned. Hawaii's government website called Kaleo Manuel one of 200 inaugural Obama leaders, and the Obama Foundation said that Manuel believed that ancient wisdom will help save the earth. However, reports say that Manuel is blamed for delaying the state's permission to use water from the West Maui stream. His reluctance to act may have made it harder to save Lahaina from the wildfire. Manuel, who, quote, initially balked at West Maui Land Company's request for additional water to help prevent the fire from spreading to properties managed by the company, end quote, has now been reassigned. He's been reassigned by the state, not fired, and now is being actively defended by them.
I had fire hose down at the fire hydrant down here where I was going to try to protect the house myself. and the fire hydrant was dry. There was no water. The hoses had no water.
After a complaint that he delayed the release of stream water to fight the fires, Kaleo Manuel was reassigned from being the deputy in charge of the State Water Commission. That led to protests from environmentalists and Native Hawaiian water activists who see Manuel as key to fair distribution of water, including to Kuleana farmers.
I'm really deeply concerned with how Kaleo Manuel is being treated in the media in particular, and some of the very nasty, I would say racist in some cases, and anti-Hawaiian articles that have been written about him.
Moving on to the next character, we have Maui Police Chief John Pelletier. I just wanted to make a quick mention of some things that have been pointed out about him. First thing, obviously, Pelletier was the police captain in Las Vegas during the 2017 Las Vegas shooting that they totally covered up, by the way, and we never got a motive for the lone gunman that was allegedly the culprit. 2, on his LinkedIn, it says that he graduated from the FBI Academy. Usually when you graduate from the FBI Academy, you go to work for, I don't know, the FBI. So is he the FBI stooge that serves as the police captain, police chief in these major hot points across the U.S.? I'm moving out of my town if he becomes the police chief here. What did stick out to me was this clip from 2022 where he had 7 complaints filed against him from his staff.
Maui Police Chief John Pelletier has been on the job for about 7 months now and has racked up 7 official work environment complaints. The employees who filed the grievances don't want to speak out because of fear of retaliation.
It wasn't a leadership, it was a dictatorship.
Former Maui Police Department Lieutenant William Hankins had more than 30 years of service under his belt. Hankins worked under 5 different chiefs, but says he retired early because of Pelletier, alleging the recently installed head created what he calls a hostile and toxic work environment from the very first meeting.
Sounds like Pelletier cleaned house as soon as he got there. He got all the good guys to leave.
I got to tell you, I met with them. I'm also the coroner, for those who don't know that. I'm also the coroner, for those who don't know that. I'm also the coroner, for those who don't know that.
Let's move on to more of how the government has handled this situation on an island where military presence was already high. And it should be noted that on a national level, there's been a total media blackout on this situation, which is why I wanted to document our findings on here. So much gets lost in the next big distraction. It's looking like it's going to be threat of virus lockdown next. So let's remember these important details because, in my opinion, and not to fearmonger, never to fearmonger, okay? Just like we've been establishing a pattern on this channel of fires, of lack of insurance, of climate change lockdowns, okay? It's all been predicted. Just based on the data we've accumulated on this channel, what has happened in Lahaina could happen in any one of our towns. So when in doubt, paint your roof blue, I guess. I told you in the last video that Good Samaritans were sneaking in supplies to Lahaina by boat because FEMA response has been abysmal. Even though Joe Biden was quote-unquote laser focused, y'all, laser focused on getting Lahaina what they needed. You know, what they needed, anything under $700 per household, okay? However, it's been reported that over the last 10 days that Lahaina survivors are becoming sick from the government-provided drinking water. One citizen said, quote, "We're experiencing now an issue with the water supply. We're being told that the water is not safe to drink. It's also not safe after boiling, which is quite frightening. And we don't know how long these restrictions are going to be lasting on the public. We're also hearing that the potable water being brought in by government officials is making people ill for whatever reason." FEMA confirmed on August 30th that they have no plans of giving more than $700 of aid per household. Let me reiterate, per household. So even if it was per victim, and it's not. But let's say it was. There's a population of 13,000 on Lahaina, and that's $9 million in total government aid being given. But we cash billion-dollar checks all day for Ukraine. I also wanted to include this video from this Hawaiian captain where he says he saw news of the fire, and he went straight away to Maui to rescue people and deliver aid, and some of his attempts to deliver aid were blocked.
What I couldn't understand is that why did we have to bring supplies with the boats Why did we have to transport supplies from Ma'alaya to Kahana by boat when everything was on trucks waiting at the roadblock to get in? When we delivered the next day, that night, I get a call from
Yeah, the
my
blue
friend Kumaili
rooms
Alcana. He tells me he's got 9 pallets of
don't
food to go
react to
to the
directed
Kahana.
energy
So we took over 9 pallets of
weapons.
food, water, supplies. Where was the county? Where was the state? Where was the Red Cross? There was no aid for the people there.
You know, somehow, even though the government couldn't deliver clean drinking water, they couldn't deliver any water at all, by the way, while everything was burning down. They couldn't sound a single siren. They couldn't help these poor people while they were being burned alive. While all that is true, they weren't able to do any of that. Somehow, in the last couple of weeks, they were able to completely lock down Lahaina. They barricaded the city and they put up miles and miles of black fencing. And there's even reports of private police and military presence to double down on this total media blackout. And what is, in my opinion, a total cover up.
Hello.
On ensuring that the media and anyone
Well, they
else
did show
can't
that
see what's going on here in
but
Lahaina, West
the
Maui.
TNT,
There are
the
miles
tentative
and miles of this black
non-confirmation did
fence
come through, and I
going up.
printed them up
It
in
was not here
Spanish for them.
before. That is obscuring ground zero and making sure no one can
They're
see
reviewing it.
what's
Mhm.
going
No, they're
on
still here.
inside of there
They're
from
just
the
reviewing it
road.
because
No
they
one
have to
can
check
get
one
in
of the
there,
boxes
no one
whether or
can
not
take
they're
any
going to.
pictures. And then I've also
I'll go
seen
down there and take
these
care of it in
weird
that.
foreign police
So
cars
I'll let you
showing
know.
up, these special police, I'm not sure what to call them. This is a Nissan, but
All right,
there's quite a large presence of these.
To top it all off, they're spraying pink glue all over Lahaina. Reported by NBC, quote, with more of the burn zone searched each day, the charred black earth and ash will soon turn pink as a water-based glue is applied to prevent winds and rains from kicking it up and running off into the ocean. The EPA says while the glue has not been used extensively
No,
on
they
other
weren't wildfires.
wildfires, it's environmentally safe, naturally breaking down after about 6 months, or if it's physically disturbed by people walking on it, end quote. So my understanding of this is
Hello.
that they're spraying the ground pink
Yeah.
with this pink glue for climate erosion purposes, and it's
Yeah, I'll
pink,
reset it.
so
I'm
it
in there
indicates
now,
that
so
the
I
area
reset it,
has
sent it to
been
you.
investigated. Or I suppose, theoretically,
Yep.
hypothetically,
Okay.
allegedly, in the wrong hands, the
Bye.
area will be sprayed pink on what's been covered up and the crime scene contaminated in the name of climate change. But hey, it's just more being added on to the pile because they already admit that a lot of the evidence has been destroyed anyway. I know y'all probably want me to cover and ask questions like how can a normal fire burn cars like this? Why are blue cars, blue roofs, and blue umbrellas left unburnt in the charred remains? But we covered a lot of that in previous videos, and I just want you to remember that Hawaii is a strategic location for the United States military, making it a huge target. And while there is a huge military presence in Hawaii, there's a huge push for investors and even governments to kick locals out of their homeland and use that land to transform it to a build back better situation. Lahaina is prime real estate, and vultures are circling it as we speak. This concludes my entire series. I'm probably not going to do any more videos on this. I will probably put all 3 of my videos on Lahaina together in a comprehensive 30-minute video for greater understanding. As always, our thoughts and prayers go out to those who were affected by this fire. We pray for justice and healing for all those who were wronged. And personally, I pray for discernment for all those who have watched this go down. Hey, internet friends. If you're a homeowner or you want to become a homeowner one day, you're going to want to watch this video. At the heart and soul of the American dream is homeownership. More specifically, being able to work hard for fair pay, buy a home and start a family. Bricks and beams, hopes and dreams, the ability to come from nothing, to be no one, and eventually make a name for yourself and leave behind a tangible legacy for your family. The family farm, the family business, whatever it might be. But what if the American dream is quickly fading before our eyes, leaving only a nightmare behind? because trends taking place in California and Florida under the limp excuse of climate change and rapid inflation are leading the way to the brave new world, one in which our children will not be afforded the same opportunities we were in this once great country. In an unforeseen event such as a fire, your homeowner's insurance will typically cover the losses and damage to your property. And so your mortgage lender wants to ensure that your property is insured when you have a mortgage. Because of this, lenders typically demand evidence that you have homeowner's insurance. Well, the problem is insurance companies are leaving California on the excuse of climate change, with the recent years of wildfires compounded with rapid inflation. They're claiming that these factors are basically causing insurance companies to pay a lot more for a loss than they have in the past. As a result, these insurance agencies are raising their rates. For example, for a $1 million house in California, people were paying $1,800 in homeowners insurance per year. And now rates are jumping from $1,800 per year to $10,000 to $15,000 per year. And if you have a mortgage, this is lumped into your monthly payment. So people who are paying $150 a month towards insurance on top of what they owe on their house plus interest are now paying upwards of $1,200 per month just in insurance fees, making basic homeownership unaffordable for the average person. According to the Federal Reserve Bank, the median home sales price in the United States is $436,000. And home buyers now need $117,000 in annual income to afford a median priced home in the US. The problem is, inflation is happening so rapidly, even though they lie about the numbers. They're going to lie, okay? Don't believe the numbers, look into it yourself. But it's like the Weimar Republic, but with wages being so stagnant. At the end of May, State Farm made the announcement that it would stop issuing new homeowner coverage in California. All states stopped issuing new homeowner coverage last year. Farmers insurance is now following suit, saying that, quote, record-breaking inflation, severe weather events, and reconstruction costs continuing to climb were behind its decision, end quote. Let me break it down for you even more so I can emphasize the severity of this news. If you can't afford your monthly insurance payment, you're not going to be able to obtain a mortgage. Moreover, if you can't afford to pay your insurance, it's unlikely you'll be able to afford to rebuild your house in the event of catastrophe. Big name insurance companies are leaving California simply because they can't stay in business. So it's setting up this situation where we have a wealth gap that is widening at lightning speed, where only the wealthy can own a home, or a situation where only the Black Rocks of the world can buy a block and rent it out and afford the insurance. Meaning they're forcing citizens out of California, and those citizens will inevitably flow into other states, bringing their politics and inevitably voting for the same policies that have doomed California. What's interesting about this California insurance news specifically is that rural areas are seeing more of an increase in rates than cities, so people are moving into the cities or becoming renters to avoid the cost. And from where I'm sitting, it's giving new meaning and clarity to Agenda 2030, Agenda 21, and the push for these 15-minute cities. The government's reclaiming land and making them national parks, and the lines and boundaries of nations being erased, only to be replaced by super cities. And it used to be that you could buy your house and it was a solid investment, an asset. But now people can hardly afford groceries, so how are they supposed to buy a $400,000 starter home with a high interest rate, property tax hikes, a car payment, student loan, credit card debt, and now skyrocketing insurance rates? The answer is they can't. They simply can't. And so I ask, how is this not considered theft of property? Is this trend paving the way for nationalized housing? Unfortunately, this is a coast-to-coast phenomenon. Rapid increases in interest rates have contributed to a 50% reduction in homes for sale in June 2023 compared to 2019. But let's take a look at Florida, the third most populous state, where they've been grappling for some time with a property insurance crisis that is making homeownership unaffordable for many. And now, Florida residents pay an average of $6,000 annually for homeowners insurance. That's a 42% increase over the previous year. In contrast with the rest of the United States, the typical annual premium is $1,700 a year. 13 Florida insurance companies have declared bankruptcy in recent years, and others have just ceased writing insurance in Florida, like farmers insurance. All of it contributes to premium price increases and a worsening of the state's housing affordability crisis. In other words, under the excuse of climate change and rapid inflation, Florida might soon be only for the intensely wealthy. To summarize, we're experiencing Weimar-style conditions with hyperinflation. Because the parasite on our country, the Federal Reserve Bank, has printed so much money in recent years. And our leaders have been complicit in destroying our entire economy through their COVID lockdowns. Yet the government constantly lies about the inflation numbers, while insurance companies are refusing to insure homes or hiking up rates so high that an average person can't even afford to own a home. The American dream is slipping away from us, and all of this is being blamed on climate change, when it's an open secret that the government can control the weather and has been perfecting weather warfare since the Vietnam War. And if you think this phenomenon is limited to Florida or California, think again. Look at the destructive floods in Vermont last week they're blaming on climate change. It's just a matter of time before this reaches every state, as they've already promised it would. I keep referencing this 8 predictions for the world in 2030 released by the World Economic Forum, and the one that haunts me the most is the "you'll own nothing and be happy." That's exactly what is happening here, y'all, and the pace at which things are changing is unprecedented. This video isn't really about the bricks and the beams, the houses and the land, as I referenced in the beginning. It's about the rapid theft of hopes, dreams, opportunities, and freedoms. And it's all playing out before us, and it seems like no one is really doing anything about it because everyone is just sitting around waiting for these stupid politicians to act in our favor. And for that, they laugh at us.
Every city in the United States has become much worse over the past 3 years. Yeah. Drive around. There's not one city that's gotten better in the United States, and it's visible. Our economy has degraded. The suicide rate has jumped. Public filth and disorder and crime have exponentially increased, and yet your concern is that the Ukrainians, a country most people can't find on a map, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. I think it's a fair question to ask, like, where's the concern for the United States in that?
Well, it's not my concern. Tucker, I've heard that routine from you before, but that's not my concern.
Anyway, what do you think, internet friends? You know, I always look forward to your comments. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, supporting my channel on Patreon, and purchasing my book, The Deep State Encyclopedia. Bye.
What happened? Team's looking good. Sorry, I'm talking on a Zoom call. I'm talking to the computer. Talking to the computer. No, I just need the one sheet. The rest is for you to keep.
Oh, okay.
You got to check one.
Yeah.
Which one?
Oh.
Mel's interview, sure. Is it? Oh, there it is. What's this from?
The White Pill is available now at whitepillbook.com. This episode is brought to you by Patriot Gold. Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour. This is going to be an extremely special and important episode, in my opinion. We have with us Gabe Shipton. He is Julian Assange's brother. He's the producer of the film Ithaca, which tells the story of Julian's political imprisonment through the eyes of his wife and their shared dad. Gabe, you're in Australia right now, correct?
Yeah, that's right, Michael. It's good to be with you this morning.
So I have a lot of questions to discuss. I personally made it a point not to do my homework for this episode because, in my opinion, and I don't think it's really a controversial one, your brother Julian Assange is probably the biggest political prisoner on earth today. There is an enormous amount of disinformation and misinformation about him in the media. In my view, and I don't think this is controversial either, this is by design. There's very much an attempt to muddy the waters to make it seem like there's some ambiguity about what he's being put through and what he's being accused of. In my view, there is not much ambiguity there at all. He's being treated far worse than people who are literally being caught murdering, fingerprints on film and so on and so forth. And the conditions he's under are less than ideal, less than civilized, to put it mildly. One of the things, I'm sure, on some level, there's a part of you that is sick of answering the same questions over and over. But on the other hand, I imagine there's a party that's like, look, every day that my brother is behind bars, that means I have a duty to, yes, maybe it's annoying to repeat the same questions over and over, but as long as he's there, you know, I have to carry that burden. Is that an accurate representation?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a battle of narratives, you know, and that's a lot of the work that we do. Me, Stella, Julian's wife, and John is changing that narrative, changing those, as you said, the misconceptions, the muddied waters, and really getting the facts out, the truth about the case. So that's exactly right. We do this a lot, and that's part of you know, our advocacy work for Julian.
So I'm going to repeat the narrative that Karen believes, and here's the other thing that drives me crazy. And before we get to that, the same corporate journalists who have meltdowns if Taylor Lorenz has a nasty tweet directed at her on Twitter seem to have little concern, and regard that as an affront to the First Amendment, seem to have little concern about your brother being incarcerated in an embassy for years without literal sunlight, then dragged out forcibly and put behind bars. I would love to hear your thoughts on this kind of, I don't know if I'd use the word hypocrisy, but how would you regard it?
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly right. It's hypocrisy, you know, elite. There's sort of elite class of journalists who put themselves, you know, above everybody else. It's like they're in their own little club, you know, and they all band together and protect each other. But Julian, through Julian and through his work at WikiLeaks, really exposed, you know, the corporate media, the legacy media, or you know, whatever you want to call it, and how it functions arm in arm with, you know, corporations and government and the military and the intelligence services. So these, you know, these elite journalists, and you know, we're all exposed for doing the dirty work of the military-industrial complex, of corporations around the world and government. So I'm not surprised that there's no love lost, you know, on Julian's case. They have, in the recent history, they have, you know, started to realize that, you know, this attack on Julian, you know, also could potentially affect them. You know, it's criminalizing the work that they do in communicating with their sources, publishing classified information. So, you know, we've seen some of them come around and begin to defend Julian, calling on the Garland Department of Justice to drop this. You know, most famously, I think at the end of last year was the New York Times wrote a letter to the Garland Department of Justice calling for them to end the endless prosecutions against Julian. So there has been a little bit of a change, but definitely it is. Corporate journalism, it's an elite club, and if you didn't go to the right schools, or if you didn't work your way up through these corporate news organizations, you're not one of them, and that's how they see Julian.
That's a George Carlin joke. It's a big club and you ain't in it. I'm gladdened to hear that about the New York Times. I was not aware of that, so I've lifted them a few rungs in hell. Let me give you the corporate narrative about Julian, what he did, and then you can debunk it as effectively as possible for people who are familiar with his name and are not really as aware of what the circumstances were. Okay, so this is, again, the narrative that someone who's not paying attention is going to believe. These are not my views. Julian Assange, who is directly employed by Putin, hacked into several computers that would make Hillary Clinton and other organizations look bad. He released this Russian disinformation in order to screw things up in the American government. As a result of some of this information being made public, many of our spies were killed. And he's not a journalist. He's far closer to a terrorist. So that is how he's very much been framed, as you were painfully aware, over the years by some of the most evil people on earth. Can you break down point by point why that is incorrect?
Well, it's a lot to, you've
sure,
covered a lot
there's
of
a lot of
ground.
lies about him.
Covered a lot of ground there with that statement. But I guess you go back to the Podesta and the DNC emails that were published in the lead up to the 2016 election. Those, the DNC actually sued WikiLeaks. Tried to sue WikiLeaks in the Southern District of New York, and a judge there found that those publishing those emails was protected under the First Amendment and was newsworthy and was in the public interest. Those emails exposed corruption inside the Democratic National Committee, corruption inside the Hillary Clinton campaign, and a real-life provable conspiracy that existed within the Democratic National Committee to rob the nomination from the rightful nominee, who would have been Bernie Sanders, had everything played out, as it should have been, and give it to Hillary Clinton. And so that conspiracy led to Donna Brazile resigning and a whole lot of other resignations from Democratic
Alfonso?
National.
You have your phone?
So, that's one section of it. The newsworthiness, the impact of that those leaks and publishing them, and the corruption and the conspiracies that they exposed. I think a lot of people on the left, forget that the candidate that they actually wanted, Bernie Sanders, was robbed.
They give me a decision, and I'll let
the polling at the time actually showed that Trump versus Sanders would win that election. And so it's that conspiracy led by the Clinton campaign that sort of, sort of shot themselves in the foot
Yes.
in a way. I think those emails are also very interesting in that they exposed what they called a Pied Piper strategy from within the DNC, and that strategy was to influence the corporate media to report more on Trump, not less. And so they suggested putting Trump forward as the preferred Republican candidate would assist them, and in the end, again, another sort of self-owned by the Clinton campaign there. Now, this sort of Russian spy angle, this is one of the greatest scandals, of the last the last 10 years. It's almost
Sorry, guys.
as good as, or almost as
Guys only spoke
scandalous
Spanish. I was having a hard time communicating with them.
Great lie.
It's like they've
around
chosen
the
not
Iraq
even to
War
dispute it.
with the weapons of
I
mass
hope they understood what they
destruction.
were checking.
But with the weapons of mass destruction, the New York Times wrote an apology and said, "Oh, we got that one wrong." Whereas, with Russiagate, they're sticking to their guns, and it became a sort of national obsession with the corporate media, not just around Julian, but also around anyone associated, with Donald Trump. They all became.
May I make one point?
Yes.
I had this tweet where I said, for these types of people, the McCarthy era is both the worst era of American history and the one most necessary to emulate. So it's just I was born in the Soviet Union, by the way. It's just brazen, like, oh my God, this is horrible. What we put these people through, and now Nancy Pelosi is freely calling Mitch McConnell, who I have no love for, let me assure you, as Moscow Mitch, head of this, the Senate Majority Leader. So the brazenness with which people can be ascribed to not only just being favorable to Russia, but literally being under Putin's employ with literally no evidence other than they're doing things I don't like. In any other context, we regard it as have you no shame, sir?
Sorry about
and
that.
things of that nature.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of writing on this, and that goes all the way back to the Steele dossier, which has shown to be totally fabricated, and then that was planted into the media, and it just became this sort of obsession over the last however many years
on Twitter.
Really, and Julian got caught up in that, and most recently there was Roger Stone's court case where he's essentially exonerated of having any connection to Russia or any connection to WikiLeaks. Even the Mueller report, which was originally released redacted, and then the unredacted version exonerated WikiLeaks and Julian of having any sort of conspiracy or any connection to Russia. The Durham report essentially did the same thing, exonerating.
They said it didn't,
and
that made it
Julian
so.
from any of these sort of ties to Russia or Putin. It's a total fabrication that was used to smear Julian and to really reduce his constituency, because he had a lot of support on the left, a lot of support among Democrats for his work exposing the war crimes around the Iraq War, and really this Russiagate narrative, this Putin puppet narrative, was used to reduce that constituency and make this prosecution against him more palatable for his previous supporters.
Folks, when you dress good, you will look good, you will feel good, and I want to talk to you about Rhone, R-H-O-N-E. Men's closets were due for radical reinvention, and Rhone stepped up to the challenge. Their commuter collection is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible set of products known to man, and here's why. Rhone helps you get ready for any occasion with the commuter collection. It's got the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, and polos. You don't have to worry about what to wear when you have the Rhone commuter collection, and their comfortable four-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility. You can be free to enjoy what life throws your way, from your commute to work to your 18 holes of golf. It's time to feel confident without the hassle with Rhone's wrinkle release technology. Wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the products. It's that easy. And hey, with their Gold Fusion anti-odor technology, you'll smell fresh and clean all day long. And on top of that, Rhone is 100% machine washable. Ditch the dry cleaner altogether. It looks good, it feels good, and it makes you look like you're stylish. The commuter collection can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to Rhone.com/malice. Use promo code malice, 20% off. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/malice and use code malice. It's time to find your corner office comfort with Rhone. Hey guys, did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? And if you wake up too hot or too cold, then I recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. They're inspired by NASA, and Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulated bedding so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. They're thermoregulating, Designed to keep you at the perfect temperature. You get better sleep every night. Infused with silver, the sheets are. They prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth. They stay cleaner and fresher 3 times longer. No more gross odors. I know a little bit about that. Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag for other luxury brands. Feel as nice, if not nicer, than bed sheets used by some 5-star hotels. Stop sleeping in bacteria, which can clog your pores, which causes breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. Here's what you got to do. Go to trymiracle.com/malice to try Miracle Made sheets today. And if you're buying them for yourself as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use code MALICE at checkout, you get 3 free towels and save another 20%. Here's the kicker. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/malice. Use code MALICE. Get your 3-piece towel set for free and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/malice to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. Let's get back to the show. Let's 2 other points that are just lies about him in the press, and I obviously want to hear from your mouth. One is that he was a hacker who hacked information that he had no right to possess.
Well, I mean, that's WikiLeaks has never been prosecuted for hacking. It's never there's never been any sort of charges laid for that sort of activity. There was part of this current indictment. There was an attempt in the indictment to paint Julian, as a hacker, and the only person the FBI and the Department of Justice could find was a convicted fraudster, convicted pedophile, who was willing to give a witness statement on the record in exchange for immunity. He is an Icelandic man, Torderson, and this man actually was a volunteer at WikiLeaks until he got caught embezzling donated funds, and Julian had to fire him. He since got those 2 convictions I talked about and was offered this immunity. And now recently, Torderson, maybe I think a year ago, Torderson recanted these statements about Julian. Wow. And said, look, I lied to get this immunity. So this part of the indictment is just, is crumbling apart this sort of narrative that, Julian was a hacker and these documents were hacked. It's just a non-starter. And that being said, none of WikiLeaks has 100% authenticity record. There's never been any document published, any information published that's been put into question of its authenticity. So I think that really speaks for itself, that that information is in the public interest, is authentic and newsworthy. And so I think once you look back on that and say, well, does the public deserve to know this information, regardless of where it came from? I think that's the sort of how this sort of
MSBs
and these revelations should be looked at through that lens, rather than where they came from. I think often there's always this attempt to sully the source, whether it's a government employee or whether it's been hacked information, so the information becomes less worthy, when in fact it's probably the most important and the most revealing information is the information that's stolen, either by a government employee or by someone else.
What about this idea that the government has a right to decide what people can and can't know, and the First Amendment doesn't apply to information that the government has decided for itself should be kept secret, and WikiLeaks violated that?
Well, I mean, but I think this information information that WikiLeaks published has been reported on by every single major newspaper in the world. It is interesting to people. It is newsworthy. It is in the public interest, and the proof of that is that it's been reported, so widely. Julian's had more scoops than any any other.
Technically, you can
anywhere
do a mini tort
around
for
the
illegal
world.
detainment.
If it wasn't in the public interest, if it wasn't important information.
But let's round it all the way back
you
to
you wouldn't see
should
that.
they be able to detain you because of the
this is a
smell of
sort
marijuana?
you know,
Period.
institutional
Shouldn't happen.
mindset to cover up your own crimes, to cover up your own corruption, or even just your own mistakes. Stupid mistakes that you make. These institutions have this nature that they don't want to share their mistakes. Or
I know
they don't
that.
want to share,
I think I've already seen this video that you're posting.
corruption crimes. They use this classification then to hide that corruption and crimes, which is why this argument sort of doesn't stand up. Once you give these institutions this power, they tend to use it to protect themselves. And really, what it comes down to, and what Julian, the sort of philosophy, I guess, part of the philosophy behind WikiLeaks is that a lot of these institutions they're human institutions, and us as human beings, as a society, we want to improve them, and we want to make them better. And so sharing this information and being transparent with the mistakes that are made or the crimes that are committed is the only way that we can truly make these institutions more effective and able to serve us as citizens of any country, make them serve us better.
It kind of comes down to, if the people knew what we were doing, they wouldn't trust us. And it's like, yeah, that's your problem, not the people's problem.
That's right.
The other big argument is, as a result of WikiLeaks, a lot of American assets were personally killed as a result of this information being made public. Is there any truth to that claim?
No, none at all. And this is probably one of the most repeated lines by Secretary Blinken was in Australia just 2 weeks ago, and he repeated these lies, to the media in front of the Australian Foreign Minister, who just
we'll check it out.
Said to him that the Australian people wanted Julian Assange to be free, and he responded with this line that's saying, Julian,
smell of weed should mean nothing.
Put lives in danger, cause
weed
harm
smells.
to
Whether
U.S.
it's been smoked or not.
military personnel.
It's off a lot of smell. So,
and he
it
repeated
could have been weeks
lines.
ago
So
that it was in that
if you go back to the Chelsea Manning being the leaker of the information that Julian is charged, with publishing, that in the Chelsea Manning trial, the Obama administration actually spent, over $10 million searching for people who were harmed by the release of this information. And it was the next General Carr, who made the statement to the court at the time, saying that they couldn't find anybody. They couldn't find anybody who was physically harmed or killed due to the release of this information. And in fact, I would say that this information actually saved lives. It led to the end of to the withdrawal of American troops in Iraq. It led to the end of that war. And so, I would argue that this information actually saved American lives, saved countless lives in Iraq and around the world through these releases. Led to regime changes throughout the Middle East during the Arab Spring and different events like that. So I would argue that this information actually benefited people and saved lives, rather than what the DOJ is claiming, which is a total fiction.
It also speaks to the fact that how cavalierly things are marked as classified and higher levels of classification, because if you would think, okay,
just to keep them from being
there's
foiled.
an enormous asymmetry in American public discourse that the public has a right to know. So if you're going to keep something from the public, you better have a darn good reason why this should be kept private. This is the case even in legal cases, like you go through this, you're suing somebody, our dirty laundry is going to be out there because the public has a right to know, even if they're not a party to the case. So one would think that, okay, all this stuff's classified, it's being made public, people are going to be decapitated, kidnapped left and right. The fact that none of that happened speaks to the fact that this classification system was not meant to actually protect people from harm or grievous injury, or even worse. It was just there if people cover their ass and to not have any kind of accountability to the general public, something which to this day enrages them, that they have to be held accountable or justify their actions. And we're told every day here in the States that the job of journalists is to speak truth to power, hold powerful elites accountable. Like, we're the ones who hold your feet to the fire. Caitlin Collins had this quote, I think it was Caitlin Collins, about how journalists like firefighters rushing towards the fire. In my opinion, they're arsonists, so they're going to the fire to see what the mess that they started. But again, this is a great example of the fact that there's almost a pathological lack of intellectual curiosity and curiosity about facts in the media class. Otherwise, they'd be all over themselves with this stuff and wouldn't let up about all these myriad questions that these emails and other sorted telegrams and telegraphs have laid bare.
Yeah, I think, and what's interesting about WikiLeaks and the way Julian worked was he sort of dragged these corporate media entities kicking and screaming into publishing this information, which they didn't like at all. It was embarrassing for them because they'd taken opposing positions previously. So, the way that WikiLeaks worked and that, this sort of concept of scientific journalism that Julian spoke a lot about, was a way of exposing these journalists. And of course, they don't like being exposed. So they came along and published alongside WikiLeaks a lot of this information, because otherwise they would have been totally embarrassed and exposed exactly for what they are, as you said.
Let's talk a bit about the turmoil that he went through as a result of years. So he was trapped in an embassy in London. How long was his captivity in that embassy?
7 years.
7 years. So if he was he not also like stuck to like literally one room? If he left that embassy, which is sovereign soil of another nation, there was no question, obviously, that he was going to be arrested. There were warrants out for his arrest. How many countries at that point wanted his scalp?
Well, so there was an international arrest warrant that was around, but during the time in the embassy, we knew there was like what they call a sealed indictment that had existed for quite a long time, and so that exists. The sealed indictment existed, and that was sort of revealed in a hiccup at the DOJ when they copy pasted some information into another indictment.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so it was revealed that sealed indictment had existed for a very long time. But he was wanted for breach of bail in the United Kingdom when he did go into the Ecuadorian embassy, and the Ecuadorians gave him asylum. It wasn't for breach of bail charge, but for what they knew was coming, this unprecedented Espionage Act prosecution, and the asylum was given for that reason, that the Ecuadorians knew that he would eventually be wanted and taken to the United States, so they gave him asylum in their embassy. He had police stationed right outside the door. There's 2 entries to the embassy, and they had police stationed outside the door for many years. You had plainclothes grab teams that would sit in cars outside the embassy. It was a very well guarded, well monitored place.
Why can't they retrieve posts?
They even bought the department across the street so they could, have eyes on Julian. The entire time that he was inside the embassy, and then after 2017. In 2017, WikiLeaks published Vault 7, which was some publications about these CIA hacking tools that had been sort of let loose on the internet, that the CIA was not letting anybody know that they'd lost control of some of their major hacking tools. And WikiLeaks exposed that these hacking tools were on the loose, and what they could actually do. For instance, hacking to people's Samsung televisions, turning them into listening devices. The hacking procedure for all types of mobile phones and different things like that. And at that time, Mike Pompeo came out and said that WikiLeaks was a non-state hostile intelligence service. And a lot of people were sort of a bit confused at the time, and what does this exactly mean? We haven't heard this before. But what it meant, what this statement meant, was that the CIA could begin clandestine operations against WikiLeaks, similar to what they would do against other government intelligence services like the Russian FSB or the Iranian Secret Service. They could now do these clandestine operations against WikiLeaks. And so at that time, you saw the security company that was hired by the Ecuadorians, that was meant to be protecting Julian inside the embassy, became a CIA cutter.
Do you remember? It was because Richard. It was when they were doing it a lot of overtime, and Richard begging us. Need more people because we can't keep doing this.
And these footage and these listening devices, that information was taken back to the United States every 15 days by the CEO of that security company, and this has all been.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, that was verbal anyway. That was
investigation done by 3 reporters in Washington that cited over.
Yeah, I mean, it's only like 50 hours anyway.
That said, yes, there were plans within the CIA, not just to spy on Julian.
If they want to do it differently, send
Julian that made it as high as the White House, and also plans to murder him. Within the CIA, and
I
you have these
guys
from within the security company.
I didn't even notice over time. I thought all those. I just was checking, the ID numbers to everything else. That's what I normally do. Just
not going to go there.
Yeah, you would notice that. That's why it was flagged so much.
Court case, which is prosecuting the CEO of the security company, and a lot of the evidence they have is from people in the security company.
That's why they're already calling me.
You can go online and you can see footage
catching me
of
flat-footed because last week I missed
footage of Glenn Greenwald going to see Julian inside the embassy.
Just one Facebook ad would be good. I've still got names I'm calling from Indeed that I haven't even had a chance to get to.
Pamela Anderson's mobile phone, the insides of her mobile phone, when she went to visit Julian, and they opened it up and took pictures and wrote down the information that was inside the mobile phone, and then I sent that back to the intelligence services. So it's absolutely shocking and incredible. What happened in that embassy. That essentially the embassy turned into a CIA black site that was in the middle of London. So that 7-year stay, although at the beginning Julian had quite a lot of freedom inside that embassy, he could have visitors coming and going, and it was quite a rich intellectual life for him at that time.
They want to
really turned into
put him in prison for the rest of his life, or at least have him
surveilled.
Suicided in holding in the U.S. That's the only reason they want him over here.
Folks, Jerome Powell and the Fed raised rates
he can
for
be
the
suicided.
11th time in July. The Hill has warned that it's a mistake that could spark a recession, and economists believe this is the last rate hike.
These are good undies, by the way.
Let's get back to the show. What was your personal reaction when you first learned indisputably, I'm sure this was something you suspected previously, in writing, that there is a CIA plot to kidnap and kill your brother?
Yeah, look, I mean,
was this Julian Assange's brother?
At the time, I wasn't really surprised, to be honest.
Okay.
Julian's work and WikiLeaks' work has, always made those in power very fearful, and made them very afraid, and they have these tools at their disposal, and I wasn't really surprised that they'd go and try.
I don't have a news feed.
To use them against Julian. And then, the CIA perfectly capable of killing journalists. I
There's
mean,
no for you
that
right
classic
now.
meme, right, where the CIA gives journalism awards and they're actually bullets with
Alex Jones is trending.
journalists' names written on them. So yeah, I wasn't really surprised at all to find out that those plots existed. I was surprised that the sources actually confirmed them. That was quite surprising that the CIA was
not giving me
on
any
itself, to journalists.
For you.
I found that
It's
quite
asking me to
interesting.
follow new
There was
people.
some, dysfunction and disagreement within the CIA about about these plots and whether that's what the agency was meant to be doing or what it was created for doing. I think there's still some very patriotic people within the CIA who they've taken an oath to defend the Constitution, and I think they take that very seriously. So I was surprised and sort of heartened to know that there are still some good people within the intelligence community in the United States.
Yeah, one of the there's a lot of people I know who are very black-pilled, who think it's a wrap, freedom is gone, and so on and so forth. And the people who I would regard as the enemy class are going to have their way. And if they had their way, he would be dead. I mean, it's not even a question. This is absolutely what they wanted. And I think people also underestimate the nature of how what Hannah Arendt called the banality of evil in bureaucracies, and I'm thinking my last book, The White Pill, speaks on this with the end of the Cold War, where before he was elected president, I believe they brought Reagan as candidate into the bunker, and they're showing him kind of, how to retaliate if Russia throws nukes. And he's like, whoa, like, you want me to just press this and I'm just killing like more of the people than Hitler, like in seconds, and like your answers just have more and more missiles, like that's, and like there's this kind of bureaucratic momentum. It's just like you just keep piling on, and no one stops, as thankfully some people at the CIA seem to do. Is like, hold on a second here, guys. Like, have we lost the plot? And it's actually kind of funny because at the same time, Gorbachev was walking through this, and there was this fear of Star Wars, which is Reagan's idea of having missiles from space shoot down nukes, and his colleagues were like, well, we'll just have a bunch of dummy missiles so they can't shoot them all down, and then we're going to make sure the nukes go through. And he's like, this isn't making it better that we're absolutely sure we're going to kill all life on Earth. You're making it worse. So it's very heartening to hear that there were still elements in an organization as what I regard as malevolent CIA.
She's good. I like the work she did with Long Island Audit.
Publicly say, guys, this is wrong. This is not what we should be doing. So that is heartening.
Right.
Can you talk about what changed from the Ecuadorian government allowing him to have sanctuary and them deciding to give him up? What pressures were they under?
Well, there was a change of government in Ecuador. So Rafael Correa, who was the president,
got a lot staged from I don't know how late I'm on
gave Julian,
this is good info though. I love Michael Mouse.
His deputy was elected to president. Everybody thought that was going to be good. Lenin Moreno was his name. People thought that he was going to be sort of, the effective replacement of Correa, and that he would continue on his policies. But the sort of opposite, was true. And then there was quite a large campaign around, getting Moreno on board with going after Julian, essentially. There was IMF loans involved, $1 billion IMF loans. Mike Pence actually made a trip to Ecuador. Ecuador's a country.
He wants to have nothing and like
it. And Mike Pence actually traveled there, the first American vice president in history to do a state visit to Ecuador. And so it was around that time that, around that 2017 era, that time when the government in Ecuador became very hostile towards Julian in the embassy, and came under a lot of that pressure to withdraw Julian's asylum and kick him out of the embassy. Now there's there was an operation in the United Kingdom and it was actually there was a part of the foreign ministry there. This fellow, I can't remember his first name, Duncan was his last name, but he was essentially the foreign minister for Latin America, and in his memoir for the time that he was in that position, he spoke about what they called Operation Pelican, which was a operation that he worked on to essentially get Julian out of the embassy, and the different ways that they needed to do that, the different layers of the campaign that they needed to wage to get Julian out of the embassy. And part of that was flipping the government in Ecuador, convincing them that they could withdraw. Ecuador gave Julian citizenship, so they had to illegally take back Julian's citizenship. They had to illegally withdraw his asylum that they'd given, and then they had to let police officers into, like you said earlier, their sovereign territory. They had to let UK police into their sovereign territory. So there was quite a bit of work that happened around that Operation Pelican. One of the major problems that they had in getting Julian out of the embassy is Julian was immensely popular in Ecuador, immensely popular among the people of Ecuador. Julian had exposed the corruption of previous Ecuadorian governments and how they weren't really working for the Ecuadorian people. And so there was, Julian enjoyed popular support in Ecuador. And so part of that campaign, part of the problem that they had to solve was like, okay, how do we make Julian less popular in Ecuador? How do we make this palatable to the Ecuadorian people? And so that's when you saw really how the corporate media works hand in glove with the intelligence organizations and government. And we saw a concerted media campaign around Julian, being called a bad house guest. I think the Guardian must have published, 5 or 6 stories around this about Julian smearing poo on the wall of the Ecuadorian embassy, Julian not feeding his cat, Julian not doing the washing up inside the Ecuadorian embassy. All these sort of stories. The most famous one is the Paul Manafort visiting the embassy, Trump's campaign advisor or campaign manager, which was total fiction. The most surveilled place, one of the most surveilled places on earth, and there is no record of Paul Manafort ever visiting the Ecuadorian embassy. But somehow this managed to be a front page news story in the Guardian newspaper in the United Kingdom. And that was part of this concerted effort, this Operation Pelican, to make it look like that Julian was, an unwanted house guest to the Ecuadorians, that he was, operating sort of influence operation from within the embassy, and that he should be ejected. So it was interesting and revealing that Duncan felt confident enough to publish all of this in his memoir. One striking anecdote is that when Julian was eventually evicted from the embassy, Duncan traveled to Ecuador and gave his
I think the best way to do it is I'll text you the address.
Operation,
I'm talking to you on a cell phone.
From Buckingham Palace.
It's going to come from this number.
Like, here is your reward.
Just that, and then I'll also text you
out of the prison. So
what you need to do.
I think history is going to look very poorly on some of the characters.
So 1 p.m. is good though.
In Julian.
Okay. Also through Indeed, I'll send you just like a little interview invite.
Clear that I'm misunderstanding something, because Mike Pence is a candidate for the presidency in the 2024 election. When he went to Ecuador, it wasn't to be on Julian's side and to lobby to make sure that he's protected. He went there to encourage the Ecuadorian government to give him up, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And they held
this girl's last name is Liberty.
A $4 billion IMF loan. They sort of held that as a, if you do this, you'll get this $4 billion IMF.
I'll play that one before the video.
And also, I think Rafael Correa, he pushed the US bases out, and then Lenin Moreno let US bases back in. So that's what Mike Pence did. You know, that's what his effort there in Ecuador.
What is his current status in terms of his captivity, and what is he facing in terms of legal threats?
So Julian has been, he was taken from that embassy in 2019, April 11th. And so he was taken from there, put in a maximum security prison in London. It's called Belmarsh. It's, the harshest prison in Britain, place for the most dangerous, most violent criminals. He is kept essentially in his cell 23, 22 hours a day. He's been there, it's his 5th year in that prison now. He's been there 4 years on April 11th. And he's held there, he's not convicted. He's not serving a sentence. He's held there solely in relation to an extradition request from the United States. The Department of Justice has charged Julian with 17 counts under the Espionage Act for publishing this information from the Chelsea Manning leaks. So that's Iraq war logs, Afghanistan war diaries, diplomatic cables set, the Guantanamo Bay detainee files. All that information is what Julian is charged with publishing and actually just possessing that information is part of that Espionage Act prosecution. And so he's been fighting that for the last 4 years. He has one final avenue of appeal in the UK courts. He has submitted a 20-page application to appeal, and he is awaiting a hearing in front of 2 High Court judges. Now, in that hearing, if those judges do not give leave to appeal or approve his application to appeal, they can extradite Julian within 24 hours, and that would extradite him. He would be put on a plane and taken to the Eastern District of Virginia, which is where he's been charged with those Espionage Act charges. And that court's colloquially known as the Espionage Court. You know, it's where all these Espionage Act prosecutions emanate from, and it is chosen for that reason. Is that 99.9% conviction rate. Its jury pool is drawn from military contractors, defense and intelligence services, which are all based around their family, friends. All the jury pool is drawn from that area, and it's for that very reason that that court is used as the place where the Espionage Act prosecutions emanate from. Now, it's a very contentious prosecution. It's a novel use of the Espionage Act to go after a publisher. It criminalizes
journalism.
Just retaining this information. Every newsroom in the United States has classified information in it. So under this prosecution, every single newsroom would be able to be prosecuted. Also criminalizes.
Yeah, but they won't be.
A source.
They're already under control.
The source-journalist relationship. So communication between a source and a journalist, communication about, saying to a source, okay, use encryption to hide your identity. That sort of communication then becomes part of a conspiracy to steal information. So it really is criminalizing all these different aspects of national security, journalism, and that is why you have every single major press freedom, First Amendment, and human rights organization in the United States. 26 of them have written multiple letters to the Garland Department of Justice calling on him to drop these charges because of the threat they pose to everybody.
He exposes them.
And particularly news organizations. And that's why you've seen, as I said before, the New York Times sending a letter to the Garland administration. You also have some efforts within Congress and the Senate to reform the Espionage Act that would allow for what's called a public interest defense, which it currently doesn't allow for. It doesn't allow the defendant to argue that, well, this information was in the public interest, which is why I published it or why I stole it. So there is, it is a controversial prosecution. It is a new use of this law, and there are a lot of people who are fighting against it, not just Julian, of course.
Folks, Your Welcome is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. And let's face it, sometimes multitasking can be overwhelming, like when your favorite podcast is playing, the person next to you is talking, your car fan is blasting, all while you're trying to find the perfect parking spot. But then again, sometimes multitasking is easy, like quoting with Progressive Insurance. They do the hard work of comparing rates so you can find a great rate that works for you, even if it's not with them. Give their nifty comparison tool a try. You might just find getting the rate and coverage you deserve is easy. All you need to do is visit Progressive's website to get a quote with all the coverages you want, like comprehensive, collision coverage, or personal injury protection. Then you'll see a Progressive direct rate, and their tool will provide options for other companies all lined up and ready to compare. So it's simple to choose the rate and
Hi,
coverage
Army.
you like.
Calling in
Press
regards to
play
your
and
interest in
compare
the
auto
food
rates.
production
Quote at
position here in Monroe,
progressive.com
Michigan.
to join the over 29 million drivers.
You living in the Monroe area now?
Progressive.
Okay. I just saw your resume. I was like, hey, you're from where I live.
Vary based on how you buy. Let's get back to the show. The UK and the US very famously have a so-called special relationship, and they work hand in glove on many issues.
Well, no big deal. Like I said,
the most notorious example.
It's just your phone number is a Toledo number.
Why is it taking so long?
I always ask that just because
it's
not too far from Toledo, but
that the US snaps their fingers and Great Britain's just tripping over themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I drive it every day because I live in White House.
Well, I think the sort of purpose of this prosecution is being served if Julian is
from White House, it's about
prison indefinitely. Sort of a signal to everybody.
They pay me enough to do it. So.
And overseas, anywhere.
So when would you be able to come in for an interview?
The Department of Justice can reach in to your country and pluck you out and keep you in jail indefinitely if you publish this sort of information.
That's exactly what I usually suggest.
This extraterritorial application of U.S. secrecy law, U.S. espionage law.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a text. Both, I assume I'm talking to you.
We often forget that
I'll send you a text from this number.
For all its
cell phone, I can text from it. Cool. I'll let you know.
The laws they're protecting speech
I'll send that to you. It'll have the address and everything, and it'll also have
around the world.
Just what you need to bring.
Julian often talked about that he wanted to export the.
And like I said, I will also send you an invite through Indeed. Now, if anything changes between now and then, you want to change adjust the time or anything like that, or if you're not able to make that day, just reply through Indeed. So I'll know, and I can have someone else.
They have what they call D notices, which is where all the news
actually have
a
next
meeting,
Thursday.
where all the newspapers and the intelligence services get together on a monthly basis and decide what they're going to publish. So the United Kingdom, I think, is more than
it's weird.
They're more than an equal partner in this prosecution of Julian Assange. If you look back to the Snowden archives or the Snowden files, the Guardian newspaper actually let MI5, MI6 inside their building and watched as they smashed up the computers and things that were storing this archive, back in 2014, 2015. So that's the sort of media landscape that exists in the United Kingdom. I believe they're more than equal partners in this, and it's in their interest as well to stop this sort of publishing and keep and set that example to everybody else that if you do this, you will be in our most secure, most harshest prison.
But what I mean is, why are they not handing him over then for so long?
Well, I think that, like I said, this example has been set. If Julian is extradited, I believe that, and I've spoken to a lot of people there that it, as soon as it touches down on U.S. soil, that's when the attention from the media there will be more focused. They'll be reporting on court proceedings and things like that. So as long as Julian remains in prison, as long as the court case isn't proceeding, it's sort of done quietly in a way. More quietly for the administration, more quietly for people who are pursuing this.
The worst kind of incest, not even stepdaughter type
definitely, and they don't have to undergo the scrutiny that a
they found a way to track us. They've been tracking us for a long time.
This case, Julian's case, is filled with criminality, and not on Julian's part, but on the part of the people who have been pursuing them.
He's talking about the video that he has
would want that
set to play next.
Sort of, under the microscope, in any court.
They've been tracking us
I think
for a
that's
while.
why we're seeing now. A couple of days ago, we had comments from the U.S.
My agent can reach out to me at any time. I'm available on multiple platforms.
She made comments that the DOJ was open to a resolution in this case. So I think
right?
What we're sort of seeing is this, the Biden administration.
You have to chuckle.
They don't want this as something extra on their plate. They've got enough problems as it is with the Department of Justice at the moment. Having this case running out during an election cycle, I think could be very damaging for them, which is why I think we're seeing this signaling from the State Department, from people like Carolyn Kennedy, that the DOJ is open to some sort of resolution.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because if he's on trial here, then you're going to automatically have the Republicans and conservatives who are just going to react to whatever Biden's for. And to have all of
it happened again because they didn't initiate
aligned with the New York Times in Julian's side, that is really going to be I wouldn't want to go up against.
Do I believe the planes brought down those buildings?
The last time they teamed up, they got the Iraq War passed, right? So it really becomes a formidable force to try to argue against. Why you trying to persecute someone who's already persecuted for years for publishing information that you knew was true at the time and has over the years only been demonstrated to be factual and honest, unlike most of the things coming out of many official agencies. What is his this is a tough question, but is he allowed phone calls with you? Is he allowed letters? Is he allowed visitors? Like, what's his state of mind? As best you can say.
I think that's one thing about the prison conditions in the United Kingdom. They are very harsh. But
I haven't seen it. I've seen versions of it.
A week from his family. He's allowed to see his children. He has 2 young children that he had in the Ecuadorian embassy with his wife, Stella. So that's really his lifeline. That's what's keeping him alive.
Yes.
And as harsh as those prison conditions are, he does get those small things that keep a connection going to the outside world. And even though, I talk about this case not being wanted in the United States, on its merits and on the criminality that's surrounding it, but at the center, there's still this man, and how he would be treated if he is extradited. And so that's why we're fighting this as well. That fighting this tooth and nail, this extradition, because if he is extradited, he'll be lost into this prison system in the US. There's all these. He could be put in any type of these sort of CMU, which is Communications Management Unit, or even the SAMs, which is Special Administrative Measures, which is what these different prison conditions that are placed on people who no classified information or different things like that. So that's what we're really afraid of, that Julian will not be able to survive those conditions. But at the moment, he is getting that support from his family, seeing his children, and he's able to talk with his lawyers, on a daily basis as well. So as bad as the prison conditions are in the United Kingdom, he faces much worse if extradited to the United States.
Chelsea Manning famously got her sentence commuted by President Obama. The fact that she's a trans woman certainly played into that in terms of lobbying the president for her release. I heard a rumor that towards the end of his presidency, Donald Trump was seriously considering pardoning his sentence. Can you speak if there's, I don't know if you could speak of this publicly, if there's any truth to those claims?
Hey, Matt.
Yeah, well, I can.
We
know that
you just went to bed.
that people, many people were working on that very, very hard. Many congressmen congressmen and women. Tucker Carlson lobbied Trump very, extremely hard to pardon Julian Assange. We know that the pardon was drawn up. The pardon was on Trump's desk.
Wow.
Long and much your interest in the food production position here in Monroe, Michigan.
At the time that Trump got
Did you move to the area?
Mitch McConnell, and said, your impeachment is not going to go well for you if you do this.
Okay, all right. I just saw that you were from Arizona. I was like, ooh.
That was what was, reported.
All right, cool. So you'll be looking at
how true that is.
Hit the ground running.
But that was
okay,
sort of
well, that's good foresight.
McConnell would give
what
him a call and
frame do you think you may be in the area?
Would say to him, look, you do this and your impeachment's not going to go well for you. But we know it's very
well,
close.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a message back through.
Pardons, were drawn up.
Indeed.
Ready to be signed.
With just some instructions on at least to get part of the process started. That way you'll have you already in the system, and then
pushing it and
get here
and those who were against it. Inside the Trump administration.
Okay, so I'll send you that message.
From,
and then this is the number you want to reach out. Best thing to do, actually, because I'm not here all the time, actually, is to text this number. I do receive texts both at the office here and on my cell phone. So when you do get in, you want to get the ball rolling.
Trump's not on the record just yet saying anything along those lines. But people like Robert Kennedy Jr. are. Vivek Ramaswamy is on the record saying that he would pardon Julian Assange, as well as people like from the left, like Marianne Williamson and Cornel West. All these sort of presidential hopefuls are seeing it as a vote winner, actually, to say that they'll come out and make a move towards transparency, because I think people, a lot of people are tired. Particularly after the pandemic and what's coming out about that there's no transparency in government, and they need people like Julian Assange and WikiLeaks to do that essential role. That's part of democracy.
She's working.
Off the top of your head,
she got the puppy at work today.
I'm sure
she's at the office.
Names of the good guys. Like, who are the big names in terms of journalists and politicians who have been fighting to free your brother?
Well, Thomas Massey. Thomas Massey is a very strong, strong one. Rand Paul, Marjorie Taylor Greene. These are on the right. Paul Gosar. Those are on the right. People like Ro Khanna. You have squad members like Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar. They've all been very strong for Julian in the Congress. Not so many on the Democratic senator side. I know Bernie Sanders did speak out when it was a Trump prosecution, but has kept his mouth shut since Biden's been in office. You have reporters like Matt Taibbi, Glenn Greenwald, very, very supportive. There's a lot, and they're growing. They're growing. Magazines like Harper's, Forbes, all supportive publications who have been writing really good material on Julian. There's a great Harper's article that goes into all the smears, about Julian that we spoke about. And it's a really good read about the misconceptions around Julian and his prosecution over the years. So yeah, there's a lot of people doing great work on this. Consortium News and Joe Laurier, he's excellent as well. He's been on this case for many, many years. So there are many out there.
My next trip will definitely probably be on a Saturday when she's not on call.
Yeah, thank you.
Me and my son are going to see Shane Gillis in concert Sunday, Saturday.
From almost day one
in Detroit,
reporting on this.
The fact, it's very easy for us sitting on this side of the bars to try to encourage him to have hope, and you have to on some level. The fact that Carolyn Kennedy, who's the official U.S. ambassador to Australia, publicly said, like, we're going to work, we have the possibility of working toward negotiation. This woman is not some kind of loose cannon. I mean, this is a Kennedy. Like, she is the team player. She's a Democratic Party through and through. So she would not have floated that out without someone in the Biden administration, in my opinion, telling her, hey, throw this out there. That to me is one of the most hopeful things about this case I've heard in years. And it just seems that, and on the other side of the aisle, if Trump's big redemption arc with his people is this time I'm really going to take on the deep state, there's no better way to give the finger to the deep state than to pardon the man who exposed their depravity and malfeasance. And it's not just, corruption in the sense of, hey, I'm going to hire my brother and he's going to pay 5,000. We're going to pay him 5,000 for his toilet and everyone gets a cut. This is lies that cost hundreds of thousands of lives, destroyed entire nations. I mean, killed children. How many kids were killed, with no consequence? So I am very, very hopeful after I saw that article drop over the weekend that the ball is moving in the direction we would want it to.
Yeah, I hope so too. And it's credit to all those people I mentioned, as well as campaigners all around the world have been, slaving away at this for years and years, and all the new people who have joined the advocacy as well. It's real credit to them that we've gotten to this point. And I think in this campaign you always say, you don't know what it's gonna take, what
right.
is the next action that's gonna that's going to really break this, but it can't exist without all the previous
Yes.
work. So credit to all those people as well.
How can people support Julian? In what way is the best way to support him, and how could they do so?
Well, in the United States, you can go to AssangeDefense.org. It has actions that are taking place all across the country. If you want to get involved in direct action, you can join the mailing list that has updates that come out, weekly or monthly basis. You can also donate there, and AssangeDefense.org in the United States is the sort of center for the US campaign at the moment.
Gabe, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
I mean, it's always refreshing to, I think, it's refreshing to speak to people who have an understanding of, the machinations of the corporate media and how all those things work, and been given an opportunity to work backwards through all the smears and things like that is always good to communicate to people. But I think you have a great understanding of the landscape and how things work there. So it's always good to talk to people like that.
You are welcome.
All right. Let's look at this one first.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing this fine Wednesday? I'm doing quite well. I took a little bit of a break, long time no talk in this format. I just need a break. I just need to do something different. Sometimes I feel that way. I mean, I've been doing this for 3 years, pretty much same thing for 3 years. I'm realizing I got bit by a mosquito on my eyelid. It's a little swollen. And not the first time, probably won't be the last. Does anyone else like the mosquitoes specifically target your eyelid when you're sleeping? I feel like it's really rude. Maybe it's because I'm an angel. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, okay. So today we're going to go a little bit kind of back into the Lima files, but not exactly, because this doesn't, strictly speaking, have very much to do with Lima. But whenever I was reading this patent, I'll just tell you. I mean, I'm sure you were now able to surmise from the
She's an attorney, by the
title
way.
and the thumbnail what's going on here. But at the time I'm recording this, I
Little
mean, I literally
fuzzy
just
ears
get on
up.
here and just start talking. That's kind of the issue. So what we're going to talk about today is a patent. We're going to talk about a patent that was filed
Scrubzilla.
back in 2020.
Welcome.
And the way that I found this patent was I was trying to figure out if Lima had a patent. So what ends up happening is Lima says that all of her stuff is proprietary, it's proven. In my experience, proprietary tends to mean that there's some type of intellectual property protection, like copyrighted or trademarked or patented. And so what really started me on this whole patent journey is looking for any patent that might look like it might apply to Aura's technology, because what I actually think is it probably is some type of patented technology, but Lima herself doesn't hold the patent. Maybe they bought the patent, maybe they were, I don't know, like renting or leasing. I don't know how patents work. Maybe someone who's an expert can come on the channel one day. But I found like perhaps one of the most creepiest patents of all time, and I'm going to go over it with y'all today. Now, it's 83 pages long. There is a 0% chance that I'm going to be reading this whole thing. Plus, a lot of it is just extremely dense. I mean, you're going to see, but there's some pictures and stuff on here that, woo, it's really scary. I mean, it's honestly scary. The way I found it was I usually go through Google patents, and what you do is you literally just go to whatever your search engine is, and then you type in Google patents. And let me just show y'all, I guess, since this is what I do over here. So this is what it looks like. The actual URL is patents.google.com. I'm not sure if that's for, every country or whatever. I don't know if there's like different dot whatever at the end, but it's patents.google.com. I don't remember what I was searching in here. It must have been something like tracking addicts, restriction, something like that. Yes, look, the very first thing that comes up: systems and methods for monitoring for and lowering the risk of addiction related or restriction violation related behaviors. Okay, so here's the abstract. Exemplary embodiments are disclosed of systems and methods for providing location-based security and or privacy for restricting user access. An exemplary embodiment, a system is configured to restrict and condition access to the system and or data based on a user's selection of location-based data from a plurality of options presented by the system for selection by the user. The plurality of options include the location-based data and one or more options that are selectable by the user. Okay, seems not that serious, right? Seems not that bad until we get into this patent. So as you can see here, the inventor of this patent is a man named David H. Williams, and he's based in Missouri. I'll show y'all why I think that in a moment. Worldwide applications, it was, I don't know what these mean. I don't know a lot about patents, just so y'all are aware. This is just me like derping around the internet. Yeah, okay, so okay, so this application has been granted as of July 2022. It looks like he applied for it in 2019. The paper that I saw says 2020, and it's currently assigned to Conquer Your Addiction LLC. Now, I haven't had the chance to get all the way into this Conquer Your Addiction LLC company. I mean, I have looked it up. I've looked up who owns it and stuff like that. We can get into that at a later time. I want to show y'all what I was able to find on this David H. Williams, and then we'll get into the patent itself. So this is a website called SEAK, and it looks like it's a directory for expert witnesses. Now, expert witness is someone that you would have in a trial if you were either suing or being sued. You need a witness who is an expert in a specific field. A lot of times you'll see forensic experts like ballistics experts, dental record experts, people like that will testify on your behalf at trial. Now, these people generally charge a lot of money. Sometimes it's accounting experts, stuff like that. So this guy is an expert, and let's read what his expertise is. Okay, so David H. Williams, St. Louis, Missouri. Now, I do believe this is the same one as the one who has the patent. It's pretty clear that it's the same one, but y'all can make your own judgments. Now, his company is E911-LBS. I don't know what the LBS is about. And then it gives you his website. Should we click on it? Let's just see. Founded in 2002. Everything was founded in 2002. I swear. It's like something happened in the Matrix that year. Forensics engineering, dedicated to the success of clients who have a large stake in the use of mobile location and context information. Internet of Things. 911. I don't know what this 911 thing is all about. Technologies of sensors, location, smart homes, wearables, buildings, cities, enterprises. Oh, this is interesting. The platforms and systems they've worked with. Augmented reality. That's interesting. Aviation, connected cars, driverless cars, wireless enhanced 911 systems, Facebook, Instagram, Google Maps, Google Earth, Google Timeline, Internet of Things, smart systems, social media beyond Facebook, surveillance, tracking, safety systems, Nest Ring commercial, telematics, platforms, underground, underwater, aviation, vehicle trackers, vehicle info, We're not limited to the above. In reality, we can analyze data from any mobile platform. It's very interesting. Okay, so let's get into what David says his specialty is. I'm like, let me make his picture so y'all can see it. That's him right there, David. So his general specialties are telecommunications and geotechnical engineering. His specialty focus is GPS, cellular forensics, criminal forensics, mobile location, location-based services, LBS. Well, I don't know what is LBS. I don't know what that is. Something location-based systems. Is that what that is? I don't know. But look, why would they put it twice? Location-based services, patents, intellectual property, accident reconstruction, Internet of Things, data privacy, facial recognition, phone location, cell phones, telematics, social media, Internet of Things, and driverless. And then it just trails off. So there's nothing there. He's been in practice for 35 years. He's been deposed 25 times and or testified 25 times in the last 4 years. An internationally known expert in the wireless mobile location field, president of E911 location-based something consulting. He specializes in mobile wireless location forensics, intellectual property, patents involving location technologies,
they can literally on the fly
such as
track
GPS
any phone
systems,
number they want.
network-based location
The cops,
systems,
the local
real-time
police.
location, okay, whatever. He has
I've heard
successfully
them on the
provided
radio.
expert
Oh, I'm
witness
taking them
services
now.
in well over 150 patent, criminal,
Even
civil, antitrust, trade secrets,
that
product
person didn't
liability,
call them.
fraud, class action, and ITC cases. His credentials in mobile location go back to the early 80s.
Yeah.
He's testified over 10 times in federal district court. He's an expert in the full range of location-based services, including safety, security. They always throw these words in and make it seem like their surveillance, their prison state, their panopticon is somehow helping us be more safe. And it's like, no, what are you doing with all this information? I mean, you just freaking told us. I mean, yeah, I feel real safe with this mother guy in charge. Real safe. Vehicle fleet tracking, telematics, navigation system, worker management, asset and freight management, wearable tags, sensors, financial mobile wallet, interesting, family tracking, interesting, like perhaps maybe if your family is in a conservatorship. I don't know. He didn't say that, but it kind of seems that way. We're going to see what he said in his patent real soon, though. And again, he lists all the things that he works with. Okay, so now that we've kind of gotten the lay of the land a little bit about what this guy does and who he is, I'm going to show you all the patent. And I think this is one of the scariest ones that I've come across. Now, I've come across a few other patents. One of the patents I was looking at this morning, my friend Jessica sent it to me, has something to do with, well, this is a patent. Let me actually just pull it up because y'all are going to be like, you're a conspiracy theorist, which I am. I am a conspiracy theorist. So that's normal to say about me or whatever. But like this, I saw this one weird. I'm always looking at these patents for different things that may or may not pop up. But look at this one. I just want to show y'all this one because y'all are going to say I'm making it up. Y'all can say, no, I don't know. I don't know about that. You should have showed the receipt. Here's the receipt. Here's the receipt, girl. For example, I was looking at this one this morning. My friend Jessica sent it to me. Nervous system manipulation by electromagnetic fields from monitors. Okay, so this is a patent. It did expire. It's expired. It expired in 2021. So it was applied for all the way back in 2001. Y'all see this? Look what it is. Physiological effects have been observed in a human subject in response to stimulation of the skin with weak electromagnetic fields that are pulsed with certain frequencies near 1/2 hertz or 2.4 hertz, such as to excite a sensory resonance. Many computer monitors and TV tubes, when displaying pulsed images, emit pulsed electromagnetic fields of sufficient amplitudes to cause this overexcited sensory state. You see what I'm saying? It's possible to manipulate the nervous system of a subject by pulsing images displayed on a nearby computer or TV set. For the latter, the image pulsing may be embedded in the program material or may be overlaid by modulating a video stream either as an RF signal or as a video signal. Now, this patent was approved. I mean, this thing's 20 years old, 22 years old, this patent. When was it granted? 2003. So it's 20 years ago this was granted, y'all. I mean, it's 20 years ago. Think about the TVs we were looking at 20 years ago. Think about what the technology exists today for these pulses. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I mean? Okay. So as freaky as that one is, the one that we're about to look at by David K. Williams, even freakier in my opinion. Okay. Now this is the one that I said, again, I don't have any proof that this is Lima. I don't have any proof that Lima even knows about this. But y'all know I get my little downloads from the mothership, and the mothership just be telling me, like, I don't know, this is giving me the same pulsations as Lima, if you know what I mean. But I don't know. I'm just a pulsation reader. Do you know what I mean? Okay. A lot of y'all have been telling me that you too would like to have your antennas so you can download messages from the mothership. And the issue is the ones that I buy are actually like kind of cheap and crappy, and they just like fall apart. So I'm thinking about getting some higher quality, higher resonating antennas for y'all so that you can purchase them if you so please. But we'll get to that when we get to it. All right, let me pull up this patent from David K. Williams, or what is it, David H. Williams. I will leave the link for this in the description below. I always forget to do that. Let me write a note to myself. But if I do forget to do it, y'all just let me know. Y'all just tell me. But you should be able to find it if I do forget or whatever by typing in the patent number. Or you can do what I just did. You just saw me search into the Google tracking addicts restriction or something like that. Y'all can try that, but I will try to remember to leave the link as well. Yeah. So listen, look, this is what it says. We just saw it. Systems and methods for monitoring for and preempting pre-identified restriction violation behaviors of persons under restriction. Okay. So this just like it's just like legalese. They say it in these fancy ways. I was just talking to somebody actually this weekend about this, about how the whole entire open air prison runs on this weird language that really doesn't make like a lot of inherent sense. You have to learn how to decode the language. And a lot of times this language is referred to as legalese, but you see the language in other places that aren't legal filings, such as a patent. But I guess that is kind of a legal filing. All right. So what does it really mean? This is a patent for systems and methods. All right. Systems and methods for what? Well, for monitoring and preempting. So getting ahead of, predicting and stopping certain behaviors.
No, I didn't.
Okay. What kind of behaviors are they trying to monitor and predict and stop?
That's what I'll go off.
Well, it's these pre-identified restriction violation based behaviors. Okay. Of who? Who's doing who? Well, persons under restriction. Well, again, like I said, I can't guarantee this has anything to do with Lima, that she's ever even heard about it in her life. But wouldn't this help her and Aura a lot, like a patent like this, or even this specific one? If it's people under restriction, let's take any of the people under restriction lately. It could have been Dahlia, could have been Bam, could have been Amanda back in the day. This was back in 2019, 2020 when this was submitted. So what is it? How could it help Lima? Well, it's systems for monitoring Dahlia or Bam and for preempting a certain set of behaviors. Now you can imagine these behaviors would be going to a bar, going to a dealer's house, going to an ex-partner's house, etc. And it has to be people under restriction. But what does under restriction mean to Lima? Well, if you hear her tell it on Meet Kevin, anybody who's homeless needs to be in a camp. Anybody, because no matter what, they're going to become depressed and they're going to need the government to read their thoughts and tell them what's good for them. That's what Lima said. If you don't believe me, please don't. You don't have to. Go watch that Meet Kevin video. So let's get into some of the Orwellian hellscape that David H. Williams thought it was a good idea to make. I mean, I don't know who even thinks of this shit. All right. Other publications, this I thought was weird. Ayar Ranjani, One Heart on Yup TV, makes it to Forbes list with a tool to combat addiction. Times of India Times. Okay, that's interesting. And then here is the attorney. All right, abstract. The present disclosure generally relates to systems and methods for monitoring for and preempting pre-identified restriction violation.
I did really well with them and everything. But
now they're going to bury this. They're going to bury it. They're going to make it seem like it's something that's real good. And they're going to give us some reasons why it might be actually helpful. I'm not going to bury it. I'm going to tell you all this. One such restriction.
How's your health? Because I know that was an issue.
My health is fine. It's just my mom's health has been
a convicted, what offender that did, what against people of a certain age under 18.
I've got some things put in place.
We could follow them around. We can monitor them, make sure they don't go within 25 whatever of school, right? And if they do, they could get, in trouble or whatever.
So
and it's like
some weight off my shoulder,
fine. Fine. I'm not going to argue with you.
I thought she was going to die.
That's not the only use of this. And I don't know that there's any laws that are out. There's no specific laws on the books that outlaw this technology. So let me, like 20 minutes of recording, I haven't gotten into it yet. I've actually been waiting a long time to talk to y'all about this one because I just didn't. First of all, I didn't have solid proof that it was related to Lima, but I think y'all would like it anyway. Second thing is, it's just hard
I'm sending her a message right now.
make it through it. But look, you start seeing stuff about
I got the boots in the car. I just went and bought brand new
and I know
whites.
that a lot of people that follow me, or a large number of people that follow me, do have their own opinions on this terminology of referring to human beings as addicts. I hear you. I see where you're coming from. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to read what's on this page. This isn't my language, but I just wanted to make that disclaimer. Okay, look at this first little picture. Method and apparatus for using location and context in addiction treatment. Now, I have no experience looking at, this Internet of Things type of chart right here. I know some of y'all do, but I'm gonna just do my best to kind of look at these different things here. I'm ignorant. I don't know nothing. I'm not an expert. Don't listen to me. But look at this. Internet of Things. IoT. That's Internet of Things. And this is the Internet of Things. I think this dystopian hellscape right here. I think this is we're somewhere caught in this matrix of things right here. Right? Drones. Okay. Location determined technologies. Here's a cell tower beeping off that 5G. Hybrids, combinations, simultaneous locations and mapping. Then we got beacons. We got GPS satellites floating up. And this is, look what it says up here. Method and apparatus for using location and context in addiction treatment. Okay. Now, what's all down here? We got arrows pointing at that. Okay, addicts, mobile devices. Interesting. This indicates peer-to-peer. So this is some type of peer-to-peer. I don't know. I think they make it look confusing on purpose. High-risk areas, events. You got your base locations.
Last chance.
Frequent locations. Seems to be gym and grocery stores.
All right, let's start the process here.
Sanctuary areas, events, locations, church here. Location-based privacy and security. Communications networks, pods, lands,
you got to pick up
internet, clouds, virtual locations.
Oh, you took it to work. I was just saying.
I told them,
Look at
that helps him.
trigger-oriented base support networks. What does that mean? I don't know. Detection devices.
Make it easy to do this. We still got to get you logged in and just make you review
distributed processing. What?
I'll reset your password because I'm sure you don't remember.
Trigger affecting data sources. Transportation. We've got the beep beep coming off the top of that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. All I know is it says method and apparatus for using location and context in addiction treatment. Okay, that's all I know. What is all this? I think this might, other publications. Discovering addiction, the science and politics of substance abuse research.
16 for
I'm not going to read all of
It's 15, but they have $1 an hour.
National Addiction Treatment Information System.
Instead of the cards now, they're doing $1 an hour.
Insight into what they're trying to do. Computer-based psychotherapy.
That's a good incentive.
Before it was, I mean, the gift cards were only like $20 gift cards.
Conquer your alcohol.
$1 an hour.
Conquer your addiction.com. Oh man, this is a very,
and they're looking
weird
for
looking
people
website.
that they want to show up every day to
how to conquer your alcoholism made simple. Well, y'all think if this was so effective, he maybe wouldn't be making all this technology to monitor people, right? It was like, okay, well, David, if you figured out how to conquer alcoholism, made simple, practical, get and stay sober, it didn't work because now you're making all this Orwellian data tracking shit. How to conquer your alcoholism, complete and usable program reference guide, getting and staying sober. Nature, neuroscience, neurobiology of addiction, readiness and stages of addiction. The next data mine is your bedroom. Fantastic. I love reading stuff like that at 8:55 a.m. in the morning. Okay, diffusion of mental health and substance abuse treatment, development, dissemination, and implementation. Now, this is all the way back in 2004.
I like old school Star Wars, but not
of internet-based therapy for treatment of addictions. 2011. Mobile phones as medical devices and mental disorder treatment, 2015. I said we weren't going to read them all, but we definitely are. E-health solution for people with alcohol problems. Explicating an evidence-based, theoretically informed mobile technology-based system to improve
6 years old when the first one came out.
recovery. Oh, look, that one's NIH. Public access. Oh, that's interesting. Ecological momentary interventions. Incorporating mobile technology. Look, you see how it kind of evolved a little bit more and more Orwellian as you went down. At first, it started out with how to conquer your addiction, how to conquer your alcoholism. Now it's other people, right? E-health solution for people with alcohol problems. Explicating evidence-based. Okay. International Search Report and Written Opinion for this patent from 2017 that claims priority to the same parent application as the instant application. So this is kind of grandfathering it in. Teen suicide rate suddenly arises with heavy use of smartphones. Oh, and y'all want to use the smartphones now to treat the thing that the smartphones are causing? Got it. Interesting. That's cute. Mental health, integrating smartphone technology and behavioral health care. Patients enrolled in substance abuse treatment. It's very interesting. And it's also very interesting because right now, right this very second, Bam Margera has
Once it opens,
Slam device
like I
on
said,
his
these
ankle. Okay, and then they did
machines
these
are
citations. So
dinosaurs.
let's
So
see. Mostly, I just wanted y'all to look at these graphs. Okay, we already looked at a version of this one, so let's keep going. I don't know what these different figures mean, right? Like how some of them are like a big water well or something. Some of them are box. This looks like a, what are those things called? Tower. This looks like a computer tower. Support network and associated devices. Okay, so here's all the smartphones. Continuous, periodic, or ad hoc addict and support network location requests. Status monitoring. Addict alerts. Updates, privacy, security, rewards, motivational. Then there's arrow going up and down. Action, response, and engine. Look at this one. Does this remind you of anyone? We want to predict the relapse, and so we can possibly intervene before it happens. Y'all remember that one?
And so you really don't need anything but a cell phone to use our application. And that's a way for us to analyze which patients are at highest risk for relapse or self-harm or public harm, and which patients are okay, are doing well, and are able to step down.
Remember that? Go. Predicting the relapse, you can intervene. Remember that? Risk relapse assessment, prediction, context and behavior inference, addict profile. That's interesting. You're nothing more than your profile, y'all. Support network, schedule, calendar devices, vehicles, addict usage triggers, hobbies, media posts, behavioral data. Does this remind y'all of like Lima's heaven? Because it reminds me of Lima's heaven. I think should be in heaven if we all were linked up to this crap. Location, context, profiles, historical, high-risk locations, POIS suppliers. I don't know what POIS is, but maybe it's like your thing of choice or whatever. Addict medical personal data, admin security verification. I don't know. Addict data sources, local addiction source tracking.
Just log back in using that
recovery
user ID
services
and
providers.
password.
Well, they're gonna go
Just your first name, dot last name.
center. Addiction, server cloud, Internet of Things. Again, this is 83 pages long. I want to just kind of spark y'all's interest, and hopefully y'all can go and read it
Whatever you made the
through to the
password.
extent you're able.
You check your
Look at
I-9
this.
documents that you have
Nearby
on file
cameras,
already.
video
See if
streaming
you
beacons, sensors, context data sources,
do
cars,
you have a newer
buildings,
new driver's
people,
license?
specialty information broadcasts, support network.
So it's
Let's
expired?
see, medical medicine usage controller. Oh my God.
Yeah, the one I have on
Oh,
file
God, look at
expired in
this.
2021.
Embedded devices. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Let me zoom out so I can see more.
I
These
got
are
your salt.
sensors we're talking about here, right? You see what I mean? You see all these sensors? Blood pressure sensor, anger, and that. What does Lima say? What does Lima say that her stuff tracks? It tracks cortisol levels. It tracks your blood pressure. It tracks your voice. We have voice. What did she say we have? Voice analysis. Look, acoustic, microphone sensors, noise, kids, socials, infrared, motion, magnetic sensors, biometric feedback.
We've got different questions for evidence-based scales, and so right now that's all they use to diagnose you or to track the severity. But what we do is we also do voice analysis, so we can detect depression in the voice, we can detect anxiety in the voice, we can detect post-traumatic stress disorder. If you tell me, that you're fine, let's say your voice is very flatline and it's showing that he's disconnected from his emotions, exhibiting symptoms of PTSD. So the voice is actually very rich in data. So we validate what you answer. I'm fine. It doesn't seem like you're fine. And then we also do biofeedback. So we track your distress levels, blood pressure, all of that in the application.
Oh, is that you?
And we can track it through the camera in your phone. And so you really don't need anything but a cell phone to use our application.
We use biometric.
I'm doing a Zoom call at the same time, so
Biometric.
I'm not talking to myself over here.
Electric force sensors. Excuse me. Blood alcohol content sensor. Well, we already know that this is in effect with that scram technology. Breathalyzer sensor. I mean, we probably all know somebody that had one of these in their car after a DUI or whatever, but look at this one. Look at this. Medicine usage controller with attached embedded devices. Excuse me? Is it like a embedded medicine dispenser? Wraps, wearables, implants, and drug dispensers? What? Connected car, augmented driverless car interface and control. What? This is already approved. Fingerprint, retina scanner. Tell you one thing. I will not be putting that Apple VR bullshit on my head. No, I will not. No, I will not.
I bet she does.
Augmented reality hologram. Look at this. Look at this. Hello. Addiction context and trigger sensing, monitoring, analyzing, controlling devices, addict support network, nearby sensors devices, tangible interfaces, digital assistant with AI robotic interface controller. I'm sorry, I don't know about y'all. I do not want a digital assistant AI robotic interface controlling me. No, I don't. No, I do not. No, I do not. Who knows what's even pulsing off this computer right now? Do you know what I mean? Processing unit, augmented reality, hologram, management unit, devices, effects controller, robotics controller, sensor tag. And this is all being told about addiction context and trigger. Still, blood alcohol content, sensor relapse, proximity, skin temperature, smell, air quality, euphoria and dysphoria related sensors, biogestation, that's taste, oximeter, respiratory rate. Look at this. Wearable sensors, Google Glasses, Snapchat specs, various, Apple, whatever the hell. Brain sensors. Oh, I love those. Those are my favorite. Those are my favorite ones, is the brain sensors. Trigger. Substance detection, anticipation, and context determination sensors. Wireless tethered network readers. All these sensors they want to hook up to people. Now this one's sideways, but look at all the different things they can want to put on people. Localized sensors, distributed addict support resource sensor deployment. Oh my God. Just look at it. This is not a joke. This isn't satire. This is an actual patent. Look it up.
All right, so I'm gonna load
Look at
some
this.
forms.
And make sure to tell you which
We'll
one's
log
which.
right back
Here
in
we
and
go,
check
here
fill
we
those
go.
out. Just give me a second.
Internet of Things, addict-related sensors and devices, local peer, mobile device, smart office, work environment, sensors, devices, networks. Y'all better get back to office. Network connectivity, processing, all the stuff. They got this little scrambly. Oh my God, smart home. So look, they're just putting you to your smart home, then you get in your smart car, then you go to you're in your smart home, in your smart city, in your smart car, in your smart office. Oh my God. Doesn't seem smart to me. Look at this. Here we go. I wish I could turn it. See, can I? Look at this. This is how they're going to do it. They want to assess and predict the risk of relapse. They want to identify resources and possible actions. Select resources and determine actions. Determine addict location, addict data and analysis, high-risk location contacts, identify potential actions, bad historical event locations, trigger-related locations, high-risk locations, use activity source, liquor stores, casinos.
Right.
See, and then you just track them all through it.
So click
Another
on
one here, determine
when you
the
log in,
location,
log back in.
contact, and it's suspected tampering. You can't even tamper with your shit. Collect data from nearby sensors, persons, devices. It's just all collect. We are a data company. It gets my nerves bad. It really does. My cortisol. If they had a tracker on me, they'd see the cortisol and the blood pressure. I promise you that. Support person on call available. Return input into appropriate processes.
Tracking that.
Indicates emergency. Which ones they got as emergency? Risk, priority, severity, location. Okay, look. Boredom. Addict stays in one place more than X hours. Blood pressure below what? Depression, sensor 1 value. They got values to put on insomnia. And in my opinion, this is what Lima means when she says, it's like a blind person trying to describe the color blue It's like something you never felt before, and you can't trust addicts because they're master manipulators. They can't be trusted to tell you how they're feeling. Our technology allows clinicians to see how the patient is feeling.
So we can detect depression in voice, we can detect anxiety
You
in
measured
voice,
it?
we can detect post-traumatic stress disorder. If you tell me, that you're fine, we could say your voice is very flatline and it's showing that he's disconnected from his emotions, exhibiting symptoms of PTSD. So we validate what you answered. I'm fine. I'm like, doesn't seem like you're fine.
Look at this yelling conflict.
I can go to my nipples.
Well, I sat there and watched Bam Margera get in a screaming match with his parents. Both of them called him everything but a child of God. They called him a drug addict loser. Are you crazy again, Bam? Are you crazy again? That's what April was saying. And you're nothing
If
but
there's
a
no
drug addict
apartment
loser.
number, just put
Is what his
NA
dad
there.
was saying. So, yeah, loud noises, distress. So, I mean,
Men/A.
if Bam was under this, which I don't know why it would be, but if you were, I can imagine that his parents triggering him would have caused
You
this
had shift
stuff,
down
right?
and you
So
hit.
how is that his fault? Somebody going to come pick him up? Okay, so assess integrity of data collection mechanisms, initiate key alerts engine according to location of the person. Oh, good. This is who they're going to, oh, good, perfect. They even call them controllers. Look at this. This is the schema. This is the priority of who you alert. If it's 9+ times that they do it, call the cops. 8+ times, call the spouse. 5+ time, call the doctor or therapist. 2+ time, their current spouse. But who do they always contact? No matter what, who's always alerted? They're controllers. And it's interesting, they only put one quote. It's like they're trying to let you know. They want us to have these handlers that they're calling controllers in their patents. I mean, look, y'all, I wish I was making this up. Oh my God, look at this. Disable home-based vehicles. So just disable their car so they can't drive nowhere. Activate the smart home contingencies. Lock their liquor cabinet. Lock their doors. Turn down the temperature. Freeze them out. Disable communications with enablers. That would be me because that's what they've called me. Just look up and down the Reddit. I'm an enabler. But since Bam's met me, it looks like his life's gone a
It
lot
slashes
better. I'm not
between
taking
the
credit
dates.
for that. I'm
I
saying
don't. That form is very particular. Here, so what? It's 11:25. I'll do it for you.
Lima and them would happily use this if they could. Disable communications from quote
It'll put the
friends and known dealers.
but it puts them in here for you this
Determine
time.
the location of alert recipients.
Yeah, you just got to do it. I know this form is.
Should this be
We're supposed to be
at
switching
all?
in
Like,
October to a whole new.
But at the very extreme least,
is
like if somebody is going to be subjected to like having their
User
doors
unfriendly.
locked by strangers or controllers or having their phones shut down or having their car disabled or not being able to get into their office or something like that, I would hope that person willingly, voluntarily consented to a program like that and that program was very short. But here we are. We're locking people's cars. We're locking them in their houses. We're locking them out of their cabinets. We're disabling their vehicles. This is sick. These people are sick. Look, this is how they track them. Addict, current location, direction, and the rate of travel, potential destinations. And how do they know your potential destinations? Well, they've been tracking you from history, and they're tapped into your Google Maps, bitch. Previous locations, traffic jam. If you're in a traffic jam, we got to track your cortisol because look, you got road rage, anger, and frustration. And that gives you a high risk of drug G offense. Oh my God, this is so sick. Bad friends. That's us, y'all. We're the bad friends telling people to make their own choices. Girlfriend location, time of day trigger, long line, anything. Just going out into society is a trigger, according to these people. Oh my God, it's so sick. So here is why I think it is the most frightening and terrifying. This video, as usual, is longer than I expected it was going to be, but they spent a lot of time in law school teaching us about crime and punishment and the Constitution and, inalienable rights and things like that. And if you followed me for any amount of time, you know that one of the reasons why I have left the profession of law is because they fake news me all the way through law school. They said, things like don't lie in court and stuff, and you could lose your license license for lying in court. Well, I have never seen anyone lose their license for lying in court, but I have seen someone lose their license for trying to protect Britney Spears, and that was John Erdley. So it's just a bunch of fake news lies. But one thing that really they did successfully brainwash me into believing whenever we were in law school is you can never,
you live in rural area?
with 100% certainty, predict what someone's going to do in the future. And for that reason, you're not even really sometimes allowed to bring up people's past offenses, right? You're not even allowed to bring up people's past offenses because they'll be like, well, you know, you're on trial for murder.
Would 1 p.m. be
you
good?
murdered someone before. You're on trial for a theft.
Right.
And you stole
do you know where the
before.
office is?
So that means you have a propensity to steal.
Okay. I'm going to.
Legally, the Supreme Court has determined you cannot make that.
I'm going to send you a text with the address.
You cannot say just because someone did something in their past that they're going to do it in the future, or even that they are more likely to do it in the future. Now, we do know about addiction, right? We do know that if you are addicted to a substance, then you perhaps realistically might be more likely to participate in that substance than someone who's never ever done it. But like, how do you really know? Lots and lots of people have done it the last time and never done it again. And wouldn't that be messed up if they were
yes, and probably Friday too.
By everyone, in particular, including the government and the law, with the force of
they're screaming for people on second shift
they
now.
were assumed to be having a propensity to do it again whenever they will never do it again, right? So it's kind of like unconstitutional. Actually, it is in fact unconstitutional to punish someone, to take away their liberties, specifically and particularly through the force of the state, i.e. the government, if they have not committed a crime. What is our entire democracy based on? Innocent until proven guilty. So with that in mind, look at this terrifying, preposterous, obscene, absurd 1984 George Orwell freaking novel open air prison that we're living in. Let me just show y'all. The use in parolee tracking in monitoring systems is an exemplary embodiment of the present patent in at least two respects. First, it addresses the limitation that current GPS-based ankle bracelets have in tracking monitoring parolees, and it is limited effectiveness inside a building. GPS does not work well inside buildings or other contexts where there are obstructions, okay? It is an unfortunate fact of addiction that many don't want to become sober, or at least they feel they can be so without any outside, look, they like to use this word, help. They use imprisonment. They took away surveillance and imprisonment and the panopticon, and they replaced it with the word help, and they think it's going to trick us. And it does sometimes. In any event, it is assumed there will be temptation to tamper with the monitoring.
Well, that's basically, if you leave it blank, that's what it's going to do.
Which devices are active, powered on, It's important as well in general context of determination as people are trending toward having multiple devices, only some of which are actively on or near the person at any given time, like burner phones. So the solution that David is offering is this Internet of Things. You cannot escape everything. You can't escape towers and other people's phones and other people's monitors, right? Like look, smart vehicle, connected vehicle, driverless vehicle sensors, devices, networks, cars, trucks, aircraft, trains, boats, RVs, wrecked vehicles, attic support resources are using.
We can adjust
sensors,
it
devices, networks that provide location, contact.
If they're taking too
they're
much,
just like going to track every single thing you do.
Just let me know.
Look at this. Exemplary embodiments of the present disclosure may include or involve the collection of large volumes
they figured out
related data, which is to be handled in terms of volume of data as well as the protection and security of the data in particular. Y'all know BetterHelp and all of them has been gotten in trouble from giving away all y'all's data already, right? Good RX, BetterHelp.
Right,
your data is absolutely not privately protected. Like, let's not fool ourselves here, everybody. Can be analyzed on multiple levels using analytics that include and not limited to usage trigger, potential response analyzer, risk prediction algorithms. A similar form could allow such actions as court-ordered alcohol use monitoring for DUI offenders, or even voluntary uses by persons committed to beating their addiction, but needing extra external discipline to achieve it. You see what order they put that in? It could be court ordered, and we really want to do that. Or even possibly, you could choose to do it. Look at this. While y'all are all out here wearing your cute little Apple Watches and things, look, and your Aura rings and all that. Examples of the device extensions are specialized addiction-related wearable and implantable devices that focus exclusively on detecting and reporting certain addiction-related conditions.
This guy.
Not unlike today's Fitbit. such as
You still
bracelets that
you
do
still
double
stuck on the
duty as
E.G.
a
and Carroll
fashion
trial?
accessory and a blood pressure and skin temperature monitor. It's going to be fashionable to be being monitored by our government before we committed any crimes, y'all. It's fashionable. There's one more thing I really want y'all to see. It was like a specific. Okay. This is what I wanted. I think this is the last thing I'm going to show y'all because I think it's just gotten too long here. But oh my god,
Yeah, a little
oh
bit.
my god, look at this freaking sentence. There is no limit to the types of sentences or parole/probation conditions that could be enabled that are not possible or available today. Some examples, while unusual, are indicative of new possibilities that could have a major and positive impact on the parolee, depending
I'm
on the
glad
crime
to be able to
violation
get,
involved.
you
So
know,
I
get
want
you
to
back
do
to
this
work.
here. Okay. This is on paragraph 59. Exemplary embodiments disclosed herein may enable new ways of sentencing or assigning parole or probation conditions, which are otherwise not possible or available today. Examples include sentencing DUI or DWI offenders to no drinking of alcohol, or even being near alcohol or near those who have been drinking. Okay, so
Gotcha.
now they're going to limit your First Amendment freedom of association because you got a DUI. Okay, and they're going to do it with their sensors. They're going to do it with their fashionable sensors. It's no different than a Fitbit of today. Okay, that's what they're telling you. They're telling you in black and white. Please prove me wrong. Prohibiting driving a vehicle while under certain conditions, such as being angry. Oh, that's very interesting. Can y'all imagine a judge saying you can't drive in your fucking car because you're angry? I don't think I would have made it to work half the damn time when I was driving to work. You can't go to work because you're angry. So how are you going to keep your job in the open air prison? And remember what Lima wants. Remember what Lima said she wanted whenever you don't have a job? You don't have a job and you end up homeless. You have nowhere to go. You should go to a state-run psych facility or a state-run prison camp where you can leave only to work. Isn't that interesting? That this man, David H. Williams, David H. Williams thinks that a judge should have a new way of sentencing that is prohibiting
I'm gonna be pretty.
from driving.
I'm booking a bunch of
angry.
people for
It's
tomorrow.
prohibiting you from being in traffic.
It would have taken you forever. So I'm glad it's
Now
just
this
you.
one,
Although I had
already
people scheduled today, none of them
prohibiting
spoke
driving
English,
a
and I
vehicle.
don't
Okay,
speak
so when you get a
Spanish.
DUI, sometimes they put this in your car, this breathalyzer.
I had to,
And before you can
make
start your
arrangements to have
car,
an interpreter here.
you breathe into the breathalyzer.
Of course, they'll be on first
That
shift.
makes
We're all Spanish
some
speakers.
type of sense, some type of sense, because it's usually temporary, and it's a punishment for something you've already done. Right now, the thing that you did also was illegal. It's against the actual law to drink above a certain amount, to be drunk above a certain amount and drive. Now, these breathalyzers, sometimes they'll say you can't, like, even though you're below the legal limit, which is like the 0.08 blood alcohol level, you still can't drive your car because you've done this before. You went over the limit before. You clearly demonstrated you couldn't do it for the next 6 months or the next year. You have to not drink at all while you drive. Now, some of y'all might argue even that's just an overstep because you should have to do your, crime, do your time, do your whatever. I mean, I would say I would rather have a breathalyzer than go to jail for a year. It's like a less severe infringement on your freedom. But how about driving while angry or driving in traffic? How can a person even possibly reintegrate back into society, David? You fucking moron. You surveilling idiot. You Orwellian nightmare.
Anna's in a Twitter space right now.
Sentencing offenders to no drinking alcohol or not sitting in traffic or not being angry. Can't be mad. Can't be angry. And you can't tell us that you're not angry. No. Our sensors are going to let us know based on your blood pressure, your voice analysis, the sweat on your skin, the temperature in the room around. Our sensors are going to tell you if you're angry. And if our sensors, the robots, tell us that you're angry, you can't drive your car.
So we validate what you answered. I'm fine. I'm like, doesn't seem like you're fine.
I'm leaving. I'm not staying in this country. I'm not staying somewhere like this. So
the legal houses.
I think before I have children, I have to leave because this is the type of thing that
they're fighting hard to keep our Second Amendment right. But if you go back through the history of time, the 1939 United States versus Miller, which is going to uphold the National Firearms Act of 1934, that's going to be passed by conservative Supreme Court justices. And last year, Donald Trump, 2 years ago, banned bump stocks. The banning of bump stocks in America has real world consequences. There's people in prison today because Donald Trump banned bump stocks. Ronald Reagan created the Brady Bill, which really took a huge swipe at our guns. 1968, the Omnibus Crime Bill included the Gun Control Act, which was signed by Lyndon Johnson, who they're on opposite teams, but they're on the same team. They're against us.
Yeah, and a bump stock, it's crazy. It's literally like, okay, so I figured out a way to use the inertia of the shell leaving my weapon so I can fire another round. Somehow that inertia is going to be legalized. I don't understand this kind of crap. This is why I don't understand the country I live in. I don't recognize it. Do you? I don't.
Not at all. And, we're lost in this left-right paradigm. And this is where Brian and I, we just align all the way. Whether you're going to bash Fox News or CNN or bash Democrats or Republicans, they are two wings of the same bird doing the bidding of the same
same exact people all the time. Look, and this is why Brian and Chili, this is why we're here together.
Last part.
Right? Because I don't give a shit about these people. I care about you. I care about me. I care about everybody here listening. But I don't care about these politicians. I've been doing this way too long. I've been in way too many high levels of corporations. I've been involved in government. I've testified before the Supreme Court. I've been here, man. I know this shit. I know it more than most people know.
I'll give you guys a little bit of the notes that I'm preparing for this next Monday when I start Constitutional Law Scholar. I opened up my poster that's on delete laws. I'm kind of remaking my poster, and I'm showing you guys the Supreme Court. I was talking earlier, and I mentioned the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. They're going to be completely wiped out by the 1876 case of Cruikshank, the 1876 case of Reese, and the 1873 case of the slaughterhouse cases. Then they're really going to wipe out that 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment with Fuzzy versus Ferguson in 1896, which is going to create legal racial segregation. And so when they knock out the 13th and 14th Amendment with Fuzzy versus Ferguson, you still got that pesky 15th Amendment saying or sticking around that black men over 21 can vote. 2 years in a row, the Supreme Court, Giles versus Harris, Giles versus Peasley, 1903, 1904, where Mr. Giles had sued the Alabama Elector Board because he had voted ever since he had the right to vote since 1870. In 1903 and 1904, the Supreme Court stripped away his right to vote by allowing states to create barriers to entry. In 1903 and 1904, those laws would stay intact until the 1965 Civil Rights Act. And so then we get the 1964, 1965 Civil Rights Act and the 1968 Civil Rights Act. Those three acts are exact repeats of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. And those acts are going to be wiped away by 1968 Terry versus Ohio, which will then spin into a host of different laws. But then additionally, with the 1977 case of Pennsylvania versus Vins, the 1989 case of Graham versus Connor, which is the use of force continuum that says that the amount of force used against you will be determined by the reasonable officer on the scene and the reasonable amount of force for what he subjectively believes in his mind, what you have done previously to interacting with him. And the last thing that I'll mention, then I'll shut the flock up, is the model penal code. So people don't really understand. We didn't have the system. We're based on jurisprudence, on stare decisis, on cases previously that we can base other cases on. Well, from 1952 to 1962, the model penal code is written by judges, by Harry Blackmun, who's on the Supreme Court. And the model penal code now creates where if you are even near a crime and it happens, you're associated with the person, you're an accomplice to the crime. That didn't exist before the model
Those are on the wall.
just passed in 1962. So we have a whole host of things that are being done to us to strip away our freedom. And it's mostly been done by the Supreme Court.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to bring in anarchy without government.
Yeah, but that was
You got a question or a statement?
Just a statement. It all starts with the principle, though, of authority.
Anarchy.
The belief in authority to create law and govern people. That's what it all boils down to.
I agree with that. People need to feel. Yeah, they need to believe that there is an authority over them.
There isn't.
And there is no authority. If there's no authority, you don't have any. You have none over me.
All men and women are created equal by the Creator.
So then you're going to get
supernatural. Does anyone have supernatural abilities to create anything to govern anyone?
Well, you guys are going to kind of go off onto a rail here that I'm going to step off.
It starts at the principle, though.
Right. Well, let's understand something, okay? So
we're not going to go on that rail because
No,
that can go.
I know that. What I'm saying is if you really study history and you really get into the philosophy of the founding documentation and the social contract. So in every
There is no social contract, dude.
In every country in the
Hey,
world.
Here's the
There is
one
one.
rule I have in all my spaces. Okay.
Okay.
I have a rule in my spaces. When somebody's speaking, don't interrupt them.
All right. So in every country in America, in every country in the world, there's a social contract. In every single country, in Russia, in Ukraine, Germany, every single country in the world, except for in the Ivory Coast, where they, there's no rule of law. So every country has this rule of law that the government, who was established way before we were all born, and we're born into this social contract, we don't get a choice into it. Here's the laws that are established, and they've created this hierarchy that we may not agree with. However, there has to be some sort of rule of law. And if you read, and you can't read Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes.
Most of this
you can
was
listen to
known,
lectures on Leviathan. If you can read
All of us
Leviathan,
that are
you're
awake
far more
anyway.
intelligent than I am, because it's almost impossible to read a man of that intelligence. And so when you break down Leviathan, what you start to learn is, if you've ever seen any of my audits, when I go face to face with another man and I know I'm standing on principle, well, my ego's as big as Manhattan, and I'm not stepping off my rights. So if there's not a rule, so often sometimes I'll be in the face of a cop and we'll be screaming at each other because I'm not moving from the sidewalk. That's my sidewalk.
I don't see that as ego. Just so you know, here's the one thing, Chili. I want to
Keeps interrupting him.
Because see, ego is very, very broken. I would say it's principle. Okay, so when you stand on principle, you can literally stand there and sacrifice life, limb, and your liberty. You're willing to go to prison. You're willing to go to jail. That's called principle. That doesn't happen from ego, brother.
Well,
That's not ego. That's principle.
I'll skip any sort of poor example, and I'll just get right to the point of what I'm saying. Is when you study Hobbes, and I have studied Hobbes in such amazing detail, I can't express it on this one stream here. However, when you study Hobbes and you get to his famous term, bellium omnium contra omnes, which is a war of all men against all men, if there is not a rule of law that we can't kill each other, I certainly would do things. There's a rule of law that I adhere to because I know that if I don't adhere to it, other men with egos and attitudes and principles and they believe they're right. If there's not a rule of law, then even the gentleman who just spoke a moment ago, we could divulge into death. And so I believe in the rule of law, but just so you guys know, this is not the rule of law. What we're living under now is a tyrannical government. This is not the rule of law. So I'm all for the rule of law. I just want it to be applied properly, constitutionally.
I agree. Let me go to Anna. Anna, can I bring you in here? You have a question or a statement?
Come on, Anna, step up.
Anna?
I hit mic and I was talking, but you couldn't hear me.
Okay. Well, go ahead. Jump in.
I wrote something. I just want to preface that I'm coming to this with kindness and love, and I'm not trying to incite anything at all. So just say that. Well, other than standing up against the government. But yeah, anyways, so speaking of bump stocks, as you guys mentioned earlier, the Maui police chief was a captain in the Las Vegas shooting. Those police officers burned people alive. The time to fight using their fake legal system is over. It's time to disobey, withdraw from their nonsensical, violent, pedophilic, quote-unquote government. Like Freeman, I don't agree with Chili on philosophical stuff, but I think he is just as valuable for the fight for freedom. We're all brothers and sisters in this fight, and there's beauty in differences. By the way, Chili, I had my first negative experience with cop watching yesterday, and it was awful. So thank you for what you do. But whether the Constitution really be one thing or another, this much is certain, that it has either authorized such a government as we have had, or it has been powerless to prevent it. In either case, it is unfit to exist. Lysander Spooner, bitches, I'm out. Bye. Thank you, guys.
She's right. She's correct.
100% correct. See, that's why I love these spaces, because people get to vent and they get to say their piece about this bullshit that we're living in. Let me go to who's next. That's Marie.
Hi. Thank you for saying my name correctly. I appreciate that. Couple of things. that really bother me. I really think this thing called qualified immunity, is that what it is? It's got to be eliminated. It's so scary that I like good cops, but the thing is that I'm seeing some things, and the cops that are not good scare the heck out of me. But qualified immunity, their unions fight for them, and that needs to
Yes.
end.
Yes.
I mean, if they are wrong, they are wrong. A cop should be required to carry insurance for lawsuits. It should no longer come out of taxpayers' pockets. And
Like a doctor. A doctor has to pay for his own insurance against lawsuits.
thank you, sir, for telling me that. I appreciate that, sir. And last but not least, this is something I heard.
LVA.
Whatever the police ask for their big budget, that gets handed out, I guess some type of federal budget, Mr. Biden ended up giving them, or the federal government gave them, I heard 50% more than what they asked for. And this is all I want to know. Why the hell can't they solve crimes? You guys, there's something wrong. And I was in a room full of cops. I go to everybody's room. I'm sorry, I'm a writer. I want to know everybody's side. But and cops scare the hell out of me. I had a stepdad cop, won't get into it, but boy, that was scary. But I like the idea of cameras all the time. If a cop's camera isn't working, no matter what he says, I don't know if I believe him. And secondly, the AI thing with robots. I don't know. Maybe some of these. I wish we could program an honest robot to do policing. It's just an idea. But again, the simple things you guys fight for, the end of qualified immunity. They must carry their own insurance that will make them think. Huh, Derek?
I see that every single one of these cops should be responsible for their own actions.
Yep.
If they're
Yep. So you have good access
their
to
own
them.
actions, they're going to change their actions. I mean, that's very simple to understand, right? They're going to change.
No worries. If you're not sure, just ask. That's why I tell you to do it. Because right now, the way they're doing it now is if you miss more than 6, I mean, they'll let you work, but they're going to retest you at work after a week or so. So I'd rather just skip that.
They're in big ass trouble
Because once I mark it wrong, it's
violate
I mean, I have to do it in ink, a different color ink, and all this crap.
Well, I can speak on something on what she said.
That was
Thanks for your
couple of the minor gigs they got.
The
Just how I
third
correct
party.
those on.
So essentially, when you
the
say
last
that the
audit.
police would be required to have an insurance and that they would then be based at the end of the year, where Marie complained and I complained and Anna complained
See you on
and
the deck.
inDOCtriNATION complained and High Impact Flicks complained. And so at the end of the year, then the insurance company would come in and say, okay, for Officer Johnson, it's going to cost this amount of money to insure him. Or if you drive too crazy, as you guys have all probably figured out on your own, your insurance company won't insure you, and then your license is suspended. You can't get insurance, so you can't drive. Well, what that would do is that would put a third party between the people and the Fraternal Order of Police and the cop. And that third party would then be able to dictate whether or not the cop was employed or not. And so the Fraternal Order of Police, they will never, ever give an inch on having insurance for cops. And that's the reason why a third party would then be the arbitrator of whether or not that cop could be a cop. And they don't want that to happen. But as governor, I'm running for governor. And when I win the governorship, I'll change that. We don't have any third party investigating police. We're still using August Vollmer's handbook that he started writing in 1929. And he wrote the policeman's handbook during the height of Prohibition. And August Vollmer's handbook, that is still the mainstay for the policing agencies in our country, say that they will be an autonomous organization and they will police themselves, including they will be armed. And then thanks again to Mr. Trump giving them all that military equipment. And now they look like G.I. Joe loser walking around what's supposed to be a free America. So
hey, Chili, where are you running for governor?
I haven't announced yet, and I'm not. To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure just yet. I haven't made that decision.
Well, you just let me know because we'll go to town. Trust me, That is how we actually mess things up here.
So and this is the bigger conversation with my buddy Brian. Do I, now that I've gone into government, am I the bad guy now? Do I forget that I was born a peon? Do I forget that I've been with the peons?
Well, that's up to you, right?
Yeah, it'll never happen.
That's up to you. That's up to you. That's up to you. See, and that's how we all have to deal with this stuff, right? Because sometimes some of us are going to go in and try to fight these people in their own world, and that's good. Look, it's the reality is it's a completely disruptive infrastructure. It's intended to rule people. It really has. They've done this, so it's okay. But go in there, man. Go in there. Get it done.
And then with Marie, I would love to read her short story or short book or essay on her stepfather who was a pig. I would gladly read that aloud on my channel if she wrote something out, because we all have stories of these nasty pigs.
Dude, I wrote a story because, get this, parents are dominant figures in the life of a child. And I wrote kind of a shocking, controversial book for women. And some men love it too, but it's very sad. It's not glamorizing anything. I wrote a book, I think I got 20 or 30 pages into my childhood. I couldn't put in too much, but it's in a book. God, you guys, please forgive me. I studied the power of dominance and submission, not the bedroom type. I'm not into the freaky, I'm sorry, I'm just not into it. But the psychology. I wrote a book about a lady that becomes a dominatrix because she needs to learn how to say no. And it's called, it's my pen tweet. But anyway, James R., he and his wife Giggles, they've got their shows. I'm sorry, Derek. Their shows are not,
if you're diagnosed with or come in contact with someone,
he says, boy, you're the dominatrix never dominated.
I think it's either or both. The last one? Yeah. It's the last one is both.
Threw me away at age 11. It's all in the book, but
Was that because of him? Did he impede on you?
He convinced her because it's a long story. I was molested. They blamed me. It's very common, very typical.
Oh, yeah.
And listen, I'm 60. I've been through all the crybaby stuff. I don't want to talk about me because there are bigger issues right now that I'm fighting. A big legal land battle. But anyway,
Marie, it's more than you. There's all across the country. Brian's covering it and I'm covering it. We are finding there are pedophile, creepy pigs all over our country because there's no checks
everywhere.
Everywhere. I don't think about Carrie because I don't ever see Carrie. I don't think I've ever even met her, maybe once.
Yeah, she has been sticking around a little bit. I mean, she's pretty much running the whole plant. So.
Oh, that's gonna be a lot on her. Well, I'm gonna keep her in mind and give you this second chance here.
Of course, Brian and Stephanie are still on second shift. So.
I'm on Twitter
and they're good stuff,
and I'm on your information, and
hopefully comfort in knowing that she's there.
But I really think there are also a lot of robots.
Okay.
Who cares?
Oh, we're all.
You keep the handbook part, the front, the top part there.
Here to understand. I got to tell
Let's
you,
check it real quick with you.
I'm thankful, Brian and Chili. I love you both for joining this space. I believe it's really important to bring this to the
my card.
front.
Yeah.
Sarah has.
Yeah, because I want to write my password on
She's
it.
not in front of me,
so that
so
way
I don't know what
Good idea.
Now, is this your
I can tell you one
wife?
thing.
Yes.
She doesn't raise her
She's
hand
beautiful.
unless she has
Thank you.
something to say.
I agree.
Well, first,
You guys look
I'll say
nice together.
hello to
Yeah,
Brian.
Yeah, that's kind of an older picture.
Chili
Her
both.
hair
I've
is all
been
black
subscribing,
now. She
following
was
you
just
both
going
for a
through
very
it.
long
You're
for
looking
years now.
healthier
and
since the last time I've
love you
seen you.
both
Like you put
channels.
on a little more weight.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
going back to what
Not
you're saying
always
about
the
the
best type,
pedophilia, my
but
research
I do
on
feel pretty
pedophilia,
good.
That's all
and
that
you got all the
matters.
conservatives,
Normal, getting old,
claiming to
type
be
aches
wanting
and
to save the
pains.
children. My
Nothing
research has led me to
for
find
anymore.
out that most of the pedophilias,
I'm
not all
gonna
the
be
pedophiles,
39.
are
Stop it.
conservatives.
Oh my
They're
God, I'm gonna be
Republicans,
almost
and they're
40.
Christians. And so it's the hypocrisy from the right
That's,
I personally
But she's
cannot
about the same
stand.
age as you.
I don't know if we can blame any one conservative
so
or
you
liberal
like
for being
me,
a pedophile. I can
yeah,
tell you this,
that's
and
my
just
husband,
kind of
he's
a
older,
segue
but
and a
the thing is,
caveat
he
next
just
to what
don't
you
want
just
to
said
work.
was, you know, there was a double-blind test done by both,
13 years
I
I'm
think it was
going on
MIT
almost, but
and
sometimes we just
Yale,
gotta let things
Harvard,
go that
MIT.
aren't serving us.
And what they tested, to your point, was they tested people who were
Okay.
homophobic,
And no,
and they did the double-blind study, and what they found was the person who was the most homophobic was gay.
Yeah, that,
Yes,
totally
yeah,
crazy. And you know what? Absolute fact. Okay, so the person, look, here's the whole thing. I knew a prison guard, and he was so visceral towards pedophiles.
And now, how do
And
the
I was
pay
like,
cards work?
wow, he's so
Do
visceral.
you still
towards
do
them.
those?
And I started to realize that he might be one. And he was charged with 54 counts of pedophilia.
Tomorrow?
How about that?
Yep. And
Okay.
so,
Well, it's not that I'm blaming one
Oh, do you
side.
still?
It's
Yeah.
hypocrisy
You
of
had
the
less
right,
than
the
you had.
conservatives, these Christian right
Right.
backers, though, who are
yeah.
saving the children. That
Yeah.
annoys me
Did you need
because
a
I
replacement
believe
for
there's
that?
no
Yeah.
party line.
Yeah, you'll just call it in as a replacement. Don't activate it the normal.
You know,
way.
and,
Call the
and
number,
Marie,
tell
if you're
them you have a
new and we're
replacement
just,
card.
you know, I know
Since
you
you already
see
have
the
an account
channel
with
and stuff,
them,
but you know,
if there's
what
anything
I'm
left
trying
on
to
the
get
other one,
across
they'll
to you
transfer
right now,
it.
for the
And
love
if you
of
have
God,
issues, just let me
stop
know.
talking
You know
to
what?
pigs. When they
Before
come
you
up to
leave,
your
let me
window,
just scan the numbers on it just to make
you
sure.
use the most
In case I do have to. No,
powerful
I can do it from
and
without
you
the
shut the
MLB.
front door.
Oh,
And any sort of back
The
and
numbers
forth.
I
And
know,
Brian's been
right? They're not
covering
that
these
small.
videos. If you want to see one of the best channels on YouTube, go to High Impact Flicks and watch his channel. He covers the videos in such a great way so they're digestible.
Boy, this weather has
And
been
he's
crazy
showing
out there.
everywhere that someone
Literally.
interacts with a pig and starts talking. You're
Use a
not
little
me.
bit of
You're not a
rain,
constitutional
where
law
I am
scholar. I'm
anyway.
not you. I
I know you
can't
guys
do
have
what
had
you
flooding
do.
and stuff
So
like
we're
here.
different
In fact,
folks.
you move out
You can't talk to
parts of the
these
wall
pigs.
here.
Your mouth's going to get dry. Your hands are going to get sweaty.
Oh
They
my
got a
gosh,
gun.
I
They're
know
going to
if
be
you drive down
intimidating to you.
Rossler,
You invoke
like
your
all the
Fifth
way down,
Amendment
it's
right.
just
Put it on
like
camera.
pure
Make them look
genocide.
like the
Like
clown they
every
are.
house
Stop
has
talking
all
to
of
pigs,
their
please. I
carpet
don't want
torn
to
up,
see
like
your
every
video
single
on
house.
Brian's channel.
Yep, I was
I
like,
don't
oh
want
my
to
gosh.
see where
And you said, now
Keith
call and
didn't
tell them
listen and
that
Keith
it's just a
decided,
replacement
they were
car.
going to
Yeah,
step
it's
up to
mostly
this pig
automated,
and let the
so.
pig know, you're a piece of
Okay.
garbage. And then
I
they forgot
yeah, I
Cohen
remember
versus
that.
California, and they're cursing the cop out. And he says, I'm going to arrest you. And he said, and he forgets to
Okay,
say the
and I thank you so
1971
much
case of Cohen
for
versus
Well, good luck to
California
you.
upholds my
you
First
just
Amendment
saved me.
right.
Anything
Say the words I
changes,
want
or if you're not going to be able to make it on time, please shoot me a
and
text.
so
Let me know.
you not may
Okay.
not be able to recall that
Alright.
when you're going back and forth with that pig.
Luck.
And then next thing you know, you're
If
in
you ever need
torture
anything,
cuffs.
just shoot me a text.
And those
I
torture
respond
cuffs
as
are
soon as I
always
can.
torture.
Okay.
And
Oh, dude, you're so good. I'm telling you right now. See, Brian, this is why I love
Okay.
you guys are here right now.
You too. You
This
too.
is
Yep.
genius. He's absolutely right.
Oh, wait, I gotta let you out.
Marie, you've got your hand raised again. Jump in, say your piece. But dude, Chili, holy shit, dude, you are a stone for everybody to follow. Everybody follow Chili. Everybody follow Chili.
I followed him, Derek. And Sarah, listen, another thing too that is coming is this thing with child brides and what they feel. Some very religious people, it's different religions, it's not just Christian, but they believe in the purity of women, and so that child 13 and 14 and 15-year-old thing, to me, any man that has to deal with a child, I don't see that as being a man. I'm sorry, you guys. I love men. I want a man. I don't like kids. I'm sorry. I don't like kids. Secondly, what was I going to say? I have a situation, and I have talked to police in the past. I have not, been in, let's just say I have had situations, and I never say anything about threatening or breaking the law. I have a situation going on now, a land dispute, a land fight. I've got an old sheriff in a very small town squatting on my land, and he's got guns, but anyway, I've got to write another letter. And you guys, the Hawaii thing, I'm so astounded over that. I've heard stories about their sheriff too now being the coroner, and I was in a room. They were talking. I guess all the buildings were very old, dry, wood. The water had been shut off. These are small town crony, like cops who are in charge, Uvalde. How, you put this power in the wrong hands. It's scary. It's like and
I have
these people are stupid, half of them. So I'll shut up.
It's a small town. It's a small town story that has been.
I'm just going to pop over to my
right. So we're
premiere of my outro, and then I'm going to do it my outro because
that's what it is, and we're seeing the corruption of it. So go ahead, Chili, and by the way, so TC, I know Chili's going to speak, but TC, you're up next to talk and ask questions. Okay.
So Marie has, she's 100% correct. There's literally 100 different points of light that each one of us could put on our glasses and go running at that point of light to try to take on the source of that point of light, which is the light of tyranny. And so what I've done, and a few people have joined me on this mission, is I focused on just overturning Terry versus Ohio. And I mean, believe me, I can see what's going on in Hawaii. People have asked me to go there and help and do these things, but
I haven't heard him at all.
Marie,
he's been quiet listening.
I believe that each of us have to individually focus on our mission and then gather a bunch of troops to come with us. And so Terry versus Ohio, to me, is the interaction point between police and citizens. That's when the cops can walk up to you because of a racist Supreme Court holding in 1968 and say, Marie, I'm suspicious of you, so I get to grab you now.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad. After her there ain't no coming back. Wanna take a run at that? I think she's feeling me. Turn it up a few degrees. My imagination of her body gets the best of me. Oh gosh, she's such a tease. Bitten lips, bruised knees. I'm addicted to her, need her touching me. Cause she got a bad little waist, and we tearing down this place. Off the liquor that we chase. Got some egos to the face, baby, I don't need no space. Coming closer for a taste, and I'll show you how I make everything just fade away. Cause she's like sex, drugs, cocaine, vice so insane. Jealous of the clothing that she wears up on a tight frame. All game, no shame, baby came here to play. I feel like an addict cause she's sex, drugs, cocaine. She got a fine little body and her mind's kinda naughty. They say that once you taste it, you cannot replace it. She could get you high, all the dopamine inside triggers fast once she's naked. Her body's a creation. They say the devil made her for his entertainment, but even he couldn't learn how to contain it. Her high heels make a damn good statement. There is no replacement, a body by Satan. She got a bad little waist, and we tearing down this place. Off the liquor that we chase, got some egos to the face. Baby, I don't need no space. Coming closer for a taste, and I'll show you how I make everything just fade away. Cause she's like sex, drugs, cocaine, vice so insane. Jealous of the clothing that she wears up on a tight frame. All shame. Baby came here to play. I feel like an addict cause she's sex, drugs, cocaine.
It was painful. It literally caused me massive amounts of pain, in an intellectual and an emotional and spiritual sense. And it's funny what you can. Go ahead, Phil.
No, and then you stayed on for another 12 and a half years after that. And by the way, I don't downgrade you, man. As soon as you find the light, God bless you, brother. Welcome to the light. So,
no, thanks.
No hate coming from me.
Coming from you, I mean, I'm glued to your videos. I'm glued to Brian's videos pretty much constantly.
Brian.
Just because I felt so insane, because I really did think I was all alone. But in 2020, I saw the handwriting on the wall as early as January for what was coming with COVID. Then I started to warn my fellow deputies, the road guys and the people inside the detention center. I said, guys, it's going to get real ugly, and they're going to start asking us to do things that are going to violate your consciences. Because I knew the people I worked with, and I knew how they felt about, cruel and unusual punishment. I knew how they felt about violating people's rights, and we were having these conversations constantly. And so in April of 2020, on my own time, my own dime, with no affiliation to the sheriff's office that I worked for in Minnesota, I launched my channel, and I went out to protest and work kind of as a man on the street reporter, talking to business owners and individuals who were losing everything in the state of Minnesota, losing family members, losing their businesses, losing their homes, losing their college educations because they were being told they weren't essential, being told that they had no rights. And it only took about a month before my employer started to come after me. And the more I started to talk to people, the more I made friends with people who were resisting these things. And in fall and winter of 2020, after our governor, quote unquote, turned the dial back on some of the restrictions, he ramped it back up. And I began to interview business owners who were standing their ground, refusing to shut down. And because of my affiliation with one in particular, a police chief in the town that she lived in, no affiliation with my agency, the city attorney who was working as a prosecutor for the city, Albert Lee, Minnesota, were charging this woman with crimes for keeping her business open. And when I started to cover her story,
You're going to do it again too.
I helped this lady break her story nationally. Got her plugged into some
Hi, it's
pretty
one of the
solid
important
podcasts,
I was calling,
and she
to
actually
Jen
ended up
Cole
on some of
in regards to
a couple of the more, quote unquote
job.
conservative networks.
Hey, are you in the Monroe
The
area?
police chief and the city attorney at Albert Lee filed
Are you
complaints
in the Monroe, Michigan area?
with the FBI and the BCA,
Okay.
the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension.
Okay, cool. I just saw it when you applied. It was a
And used their power
I
to
don't want you to
determine where I
drive that
worked
far.
and filed complaints with the sheriff's office.
all right,
Instead
cool.
of doing the
love
right
that
thing,
area.
they placed me under discipline and then under internal
Yeah.
investigation.
When would you be available to come in for an interview?
And kept me under internal investigation for 60 days for my YouTube
Tomorrow's good. I
content.
still got a couple spots left for tomorrow if you want to come in.
And it kept me on duty during that
1 p.m.
time,
be good?
which, we talk about guys getting
All
put
right.
on.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send
internal
you a couple things.
investigation when we see
I'm
them
going to send you
actually
one little
doing
invite
bad
to the
things,
interview through Indeed.
violating the civil liberties
How
and
you-
constitutional rights
Found your
of
info.
individuals. And it
And then
pisses
I'll
us
send you a
off.
text this
Here
number
I
too,
am,
just with a backup with the
under
address and
internal
stuff, and
investigation
tell me what you need to bring with you.
for standing on my oath.
All right.
And at the end of that
All right, we'll
60
see you
days,
tomorrow at 1.
after getting beat
All right,
up by a private attorney that they hired to investigate me in an interview for over 3 hours, where my attorney, who was, paid for by, the one time I've ever been glad to be part of a union of any kind. This attorney told her, like, you keep this up, you're going to end up in court the way you're treating him, because she forbid me to record the interview. She was a witch. And after she concluded that investigation, they put me out on administrative leave on April 30th of 2021 and kept me out for the entire summer looking for ways to terminate me. And I never stopped. And the scales fell off my eyes, to use biblical language. I really saw what was going on. And so for everybody out there is like, oh, but the good cops can't help it. Look, 2020 in particular, and 2021, 2022, and now into 2023, everything that's been done over these last few years was done for a lot of reasons, but one of the express reasons it was done, and I can tell you this from personal testimony, this isn't an appeal to authority, logical fallacy, this is the truth. Everything that was done to eliminate constitutionally minded officers, deputies, cops, however you want to say it, who will actually do the right thing. And they did their level best, and you will find that, my story may be more egregious than a few, because some of the guys caved in and they just said, I may not violate anybody's rights, but I'm going to sit back and not complain. And they did all of this intentionally to get rid of the vocal, strong-willed people who possess the cojones.
Is that the first ex-cop that I've heard this from?
And I'm telling you, I won the ethical fight, but why you're seeing so many cops shut up is that they know, especially if you ever hear anybody say cops need to make more money, there's a reason why a lot of them don't speak out. It's because they're afraid to lose the amount of money that they make. And I have sacrificed a lot. And I have stood across the battle line now, face to face, with people that I worked with for almost 13 years and watched them violate the constitutional liberties, or the liberties that we own, that are our natural rights, as they're enshrined in the Constitution. Not granted, they're enshrined in the Constitution. I've watched them violate those things to keep their jobs, even though and target me in numerous situations, because all they're interested in is keeping their jobs and following orders.
Is anyone surprised by this?
Examples of. So I would strongly recommend anybody out there that believes in good cops needs to begin to redefine what a good cop is.
Anybody here know who Chris Dorner is? High Impact? Do you guys know who Chris Dorner is?
Of course. I've read his manifesto.
Okay, so look, all you need to know is that, right? You need to read that guy's story. You want to know about cops? Read Chris Dorner.
Well, there's a couple things here, Derek, that I want to touch on. Number one, so first I want to thank him for speaking and him adding that commentary, because that goes hand in hand with what I've been teaching the past few weeks. It's a gang. It's a gang. Just think about it as Sopranos. It's a gang, and you want to kill the person who is above you and make the boss happy. And if you kill the person above you, kill their career, then TC can take his role. And so it's a giant gang. And you'll hear me say to cops when I'm auditing them, you hate this and you hate it. And what I'm saying to him is he hates the politics and the jockeying of position for promotion. And you cannot play that game and be what they would call a good cop and look the other way.
I was calling in regards
to the line report.
Production position here in Monroe, Michigan.
You still have to be willing to toe the thin blue line in the most obscure ways. But if you don't,
when would you be available to come in for an interview?
And then the question I have for TC is, you still wear that uniform. You still wear the uniform of the oppressor. And so I thought to myself, when I was looking at him, listening to him speak, I looked at his profile. I followed all of you.
Are you feeling okay?
And so I just wanted to know from TC,
what's your name?
Do you see yourself as a rights protector, as a shepherd for the flock, and that's why you still wear the oppressor uniform? Or is it just that you had pictured yourself as this person of justice who would defend and protect the rights of others, and when they took that away from you,
all right, I'll go ahead and send you an invite. Just make sure you bring. Would 1 p.m. tomorrow be good?
Oh, the picture that you see on my
Okay.
profile is
I'm
actually.
gonna send you a little invite back through Indeed. Just accept that. Has the address and everything like
who was
that.
speaking out against what he witnessed the day of the Oklahoma City bombing. He was one of the first people on scene, and he actually started to blow the whistle on the ancillary and secondary and tertiary explosions that weren't just ammo related. And he was found murdered miles and miles and miles away from, actually several months, almost a year, I think it was, after the Oklahoma City bombing. He was found murdered, and his own agency outside of their jurisdiction took over the investigation and declared it a suicide. So I looked at guys like Terrence Beakey, and I go, this is what they do to the guys that speak out. And so that's why that picture's there. I do not wear a uniform at all. In fact, there's a video on my channel where I took all of my old uniforms, American flag, the patch of the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office, all of that, and I burned all my old uniforms on video.
That's amazing. I want to see that video. Send that to me. I'll put it on my channel. And then the second thing I have for you is, can you explain to us how the gang works, how the hierarchy inside of the gang works? Because I've never been a copper, but if you could explain that, I would love to hear.
So everybody here is familiar with the idea of nepotism or sycophantry, and the good old boys club, right? And you'll hear agencies say, hey, we're working to eliminate all of this good old boys club mentality. And it doesn't matter whether or not your agency is coming from the left or from the right or supposedly neutral. There's always a good old boys mentality, always. And so what it does and how it works is you have to be popular. And to be popular, you do what ingratiates you to whoever happens to be in power, as you were saying earlier, directly above you. And if that means throwing a fellow officer, deputy, whatever, under the bus, because, maybe they showed some restraint, and instead of arresting someone on what appeared to be a domestic, they let him go because it's clear that in this situation, and I'm using a hypothetical, this person was probably not an aggressor, but you let him go. But the agency has this policy, written or unwritten, that all domestic abuse calls result in an arrest. Then the guy who witnessed you do this, who maybe got dispatched to the call with you.
Hi, this is Donald with Impact Employment.
Go and say, hey, he violated our policy. He let a criminal go. Even though what he did was perfectly within the realm of officer discretion, and you kept somebody from getting trapped in the system, they'll turn you in, and you'll get, even there again, you technically did nothing wrong, and you exercise officer discretion. Like every cop does.
When would you be available to come in for an interview?
Don't ever let any cop tell you that they do not exercise
Monroe?
that they enforce every law, because they don't.
It's, my building, my office is on Front Street, but the working facility is over on Telegraph.
And then two more questions I have for you. So this is something I talk about on my
I'll send you the address
regularly. The domestic
it's right by the
post
office is where the office is.
Couples who do a lot of physical.
It's a food production position.
Push each other when they get mad. Okay, they also do a lot of physical things that are much more than pushing. And I'm not.
Okay, there's two shifts. First shift goes from 5 a.m.
They do
3:30
things to
p.m.
each other physically.
And
so when
shifts,
they get
so
to heated arguments, sometimes they'll be pushing. And
second shift is 3:30 p.m. to 2 a.m.
He pushed me. A lot of
the base rate wage is 14. There's a $1 differential for second shift, and then there's also an extra $1 incentive bonus.
Were you a part of any of those things where the Mothers Against Drunk Driving would come in and say, we'll do a arrest, we'll lose a weekend, whoever gets the most arrests gets the most money or a prize or an award? And can you tell us a little bit about that if you experienced any of it?
So what I will tell you about like these DUI strong.
Well, it's second shift and it's 4 days. So
like in the state of Minnesota, there again, don't let anybody tell you there's no such thing as a quota, because there is a reward. There is a reward for a lot of these guys in the state of Minnesota, and they have an annual awards night at the Minnesota Twins home baseball game, where the officers with the highest amount of
4 o'clock would be good. Do you want to set it up for 4 o'clock tomorrow?
By name in uniform.
Okay, I'll send you an invite through Indeed.
Baseball game, given box seats.
Okay.
And are awarded this award in front of, well, it used to be thowsands. I don't know if the Twins get that much anymore, but
we'll send them anyway.
they in front of thousands of people, and they get called heroes. And so whether it be Mothers Against Drunk Driving or it be some other organization, they push this. And I have somebody who I love dearly in my life who's still in law enforcement, been there for over 20 years, who will tell you, if you watch the civil rights attorney, I can't remember his first name, he just did a video of a guy who was pulled over for having his license plate light was burned out. His tag light was burned out, and then the guy proved it wasn't burned out. In Minnesota, almost without fail, and this person I'm thinking of bragged about almost every one of his DUI comes from these pretextual stops of tag lights being burned out at night.
Delete laws just followed
So
me.
when I started to ask questions about that to other deputies and
Thank you, buddy.
local police, I said,
On Twitter.
or state patrol, I'm like, how do you know that a light's burned out at night when your lights are, as you're driving down the road, your lights are shining on the back of the vehicle, or they're going by at 65, 55 miles an hour, and you're telling me that it's burned out. And they're like, you know what? It's just kind of a way for us to build up the justification. Sorry, I'm at work. They have these pretextual reasons, touching the fog line. And those of you that don't know, the fog line is a white line on the side of the road, or your front tire touched the yellow solid line one time, and so that gives them a pretext to pull you over. They use all of this pretext all the time, and all it is to rank up their position for DUI bucks.
Do they get a physical award? Is it a trophy that they get at the Twins game?
Yeah, a lot of them get a plaque. Yeah, not even kidding. A lot of them
put
get
people
plaques.
in a dungeon. You take someone away in torture cuffs, put them in a torture mobile, take them down to a dungeon where they're going to get strip searched. They're going to get the fingers of another person put in every crevice of their body, and then they get a plaque for that after they ruin someone's life, who we find out later was not drunk.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Joy! Oh joy!
I have a very strong aversion to drunk driving, but I also have a very strong, even stronger aversion to the unethical ways that we go about nailing drunk drivers. And it's just.
I live in Mexico. They don't pull you over for drunk. People drive with a beer in their hands here. So I live in a very different place.
So I have another question for you, TC. So do you guys know, I mean, collectively across the board, when you go on shift 10-8 and you start your shift, does everybody know that it's a scam? Do the other cops know that, you walk in, someone's got a lot of feedback, kill that feedback, but
And can anybody that's not speaking please mute their mic? Thank you.
So
I just muted them.
Okay, cool. Do you guys know when the coppers start their shift that this is a scam? That when you pull someone over into a DUI checkpoint or you want to test them, doing a physical walk the line, touch your nose, that is not the same as driving. They're two completely, and I call it the manufacturing of crime. And we agree, TC, I can't stand drunk driving. I mean, it's an embarrassment for our country globally. But at the same time, the amount of tyrannical oppression and Nazi checkpoints has not helped a dang thing. So what I'm wondering, TC, is when you guys start and you give each other the fist bump and you say, whatever it takes for you to go home safe at the end of your shift, bro. Yeah, whatever it takes for me to go home safe, and you give them those knuckles. Do you also know that setting up checkpoints and running people through these DUI tests, do you guys all know collectively that it's total BS?
I would tell you that the average intellectual prowess of individuals that are working the roads or even inside of the detention center, oh gosh, this is going to sound really arrogant and judgmental, but I guess I don't really care right now. They believe everything they're told. They believe everything that they're taught, whether it be from drug recognition, being trained as drug recognition experts, or trained on all of these field sobriety tests. or even about how the portable breath test, what they call the PBTs on the side of the road. They believe everything they're told, that all of this are actually validated, certified, guaranteed methods and measures, and they're taught all of the right things, and they absorb it. They just absolutely absorb it. So, and it's because they don't think for themselves. None of them ever stop to question having a person stand on one leg, sober or not sober, with their arms straight down at their side, and lifting their foot approximately 6 to 8 inches off of the ground, and hold it there for, and count until the officer tells you to stop.
Yeah, that's the host of this grandpa, he says.
I couldn't do that sober.
Yeah.
Because they bought in hook, line, and sinker.
Oh, he just says grandpa don't take that. Okay, not his
because they just don't have the intellect
still
to challenge
funny as
that.
fuck.
And the minute that one of them rises above and starts to question that, guess what they do to him, Billy?
You're out of a job, homie.
Yep, you're out. Because you aren't playing the game anymore. Or because you've become too enlightened, or your intellect has expanded, or you finally started to exercise your intellect to a place where you're like, I can't do this anymore. And, like for the life of me, I don't know how a guy like Detective Matt Thornton has kept his job. I mean, I see him, so I see the videos he puts out every day where he's like just on the verge of tears or screaming at some of the stuff that he sees, but yet he's managed to keep it.
Is that the compassionate black guy who's the cop?
Oh.
He's got a pretty big channel. Who's this guy, Matt Thornton?
Detective Matt Thornton, he's got a channel. He puts out shorts where people send him these bad cops doing bad things every day, and he comments and says, "Yeah, this is bad, and this guy needs to be fired." And he's got cops.
Video or didn't happen, Matt.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That is badass though.
Hey, Chili, I need to get you down here to the border.
But I just really appreciate you guys taking the time. If you want to see my story, it's on my channel, Chili. I'll send you that video of me burning my uniform.
I'm probably gonna kill this.
I love that you're
Yeah,
here,
the video
TC,
of burning the
First of all, I
uniform.
just wanna say
Drop a
thank
link
you
to
for
your
coming
fucking
here
page, dude.
and saying these things. This is because we
I
can
give
have
credit to-
Chili,
I
and we
mean,
can
I'm an
have
ex-bootlicker.
Brian,
I give
and
credit
we
to
can have
cops
Sarah,
that
we
have
can have
woken
all of
up,
us that have experienced
realized
the other side of the
what they were
jackboot on
and
our
what they had
throat.
become.
But it's important for us to hear from the people that actually are wearing the boots.
Well, I don't wear the same kind of boots anymore. I can't.
Well, that's what I mean. See, I hear your heart, brother. I love that. I love that. I hear your heart. I hear your heart, and that's to me. That gives me hope again.
And if it had been a year ago and I had met TC, it was, so I went to Ironton in March of April of 2022, and I cracked that town wide open. And after I left, 3 of the pigs there resigned. So one got caught for being a patter ass and grooming a girl and eventually raping her when she was 15 or 16 years old. So 3 cops were gone after I left there. And I had this major hang up with ex-cops. Beth Rist was one of them who I snapped at when she started telling me about selling her book. It made me mad. I was like, this isn't about selling books, honey. But Beth Rist and I are now great friends, and I wish I had done it differently. And guys like TC,
Hey, Westside.
This is the whole point. If
You guys-
there's no
you just
path
missed
to
Anna in
redemption
this,
for anybody, if TC couldn't have been
what do
a
you call
cop
these?
for 13 years and then realized this is all wrong, if we don't say, hey, here's a good man
Space,
who's seen
Twitter
the light,
space, X
if I don't
space.
accept Beth Rist and let her come back into the light, because clearly you get indoctrinated by the Death Star. Darth Vader takes over your brain. Like he said, they believe everything they're doing is right and just, and they got all these guys backing them up. So a year ago, I would not have been like, but now I actually
Tell me what you guys think of the
ex-cops weekly. Weekly, I talk to
the
2 or
outro
3
in the
different
comments because I
ex-cops,
premiered
depends
it
on the week,
in the middle of this.
because I need more information that TC
Any
has.
suggestions
And I've
on
come
tweaking and stuff
just,
like that? Derek is
full
interested.
circle here.
Yeah.
Like, you'll hear me get hellfire and brimstone and say, you're going to burn in hell. At the end of the day, though, I'm just fired up in the moment. And so I just want to extend an olive branch to TC and tell him you can reach out to me anytime if you want to do some phone interviews and stuff. Anybody who comes to the light of freedom, I welcome you here.
Brother, I love you for that. That's exactly why you're here. And I don't know where we lost Brian, but we lost Brian somewhere. But he's a busy dude. But hey, I want to bring in, if you'll allow me.
I was going to tell you.
No, TC, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you, and then right after you, I want to go to CZ.
Oh, Brian is gone.
I will say this last piece. I'm not an auditing channel. I'm just a commentary channel. I just happen to have some audit level stuff on my channel. So if you come to my channel, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, which is not about courts, it's about the founding of our nation and the Christian influence on the founding of our nation. Like, you know, no matter what your religious perspective is, you're going to hear a lot of commentary about things that are happening with law enforcement and our powers that be, if you will. But you will not find a massive amount of auditing, because there are people that do it far better than I could, because I'm so emotionally invested in it that when I have bad run-ins with fellow, you know, not fellow, but former coworkers and whatnot, it literally either breaks my heart, so angry that I just want to scream. And so please check out my channel. Don't go there looking for, you know, chili level performance, because I'm that guy. But I do appreciate what you guys do, and I'm going to just kind of hang back and listen. And if anybody wants to answer a question or ask a question,
yes,
feel free to message me. And Chili,
as long as it's not too severe.
Thanks, Derek.
It's a whole. See, brother. See, that's what I love.
Too recent.
See, this is
what
it
depends, but for the most part, yes.
What I do is because I find people with a heart. They still have a heart. You have a heart, brother. That's all I give a shit about. I don't care who you were before.
Right.
I care about who you are right now. You got a heart. You know, period. End of story. Who you were before, what you've done before.
Mm-hmm.
I was a corporate executive.
So it's nonviolent anyway.
Senior executive with Microsoft and Paramount Pictures.
Okay, you don't need to get into it with me then.
Trust me.
It's not really none of my business.
I've done this.
Yeah, no. I just, I mean, for your own protection.
I know what evil.
As long as it's not violent, I'm not that
you, brother. I just love and appreciate that. So,
when would you be available to come in for an interview?
You're just, you know, you're a rock star, brother. You are a rock star. But let me go to CZ really quick.
Okay. I'm not going to be able to start taking appointments till 1 p.m. tomorrow. Would you be able to come in then?
Come in here. I was kind of late listening to the.
Okay, it'll take about an hour and a half, so you still should be done in time to pick them up after school.
A person that was camping down in Indiana.
All that I ask is that you bring an ID and either a social or a birth certificate.
So he was sitting
Do you
in
know where
this
the
little restaurant, and
know where the office
two
is?
cops came in and said, "We want to talk to you." So I went outside.
Would you like me to just text it to you so you have it?
Into a bumper of a cop
Okay,
car.
you're talking to me on a cell phone?
Something he didn't know what it was all about. They didn't tell
Okay,
him.
all right, Cooper. Super. I'll go ahead and shoot you a text with the address, and then, you know, just a reminder of what to bring with you, and then if you could just text me back your full name so I can put you in the contacts there.
If anybody knows,
okay.
You know, why would they target him if he didn't?
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
Pertaining to the
problem.
bumper, I thought that was a little bit extreme. Or they didn't even tell him what it was about in the first place.
Easy as fuck tomorrow. I am not going to be streaming.
See, they just try to pin it on somebody. Their job is to make the crime complete. So it doesn't matter whether you're actually guilty of it. If they think they can nail you to it, they will. And that's what they do. Because their job is to close the loop. That's their job.
So
you're guilty until proven innocent, not innocent until proven guilty.
Oh, yeah. And then the woman in the restaurant, I guess she saw everything happening. She says, "I knew you had nothing to do with it." I guess they were pulling people over just indiscriminately, just to question. But yeah, the way it was done, you know, you could question them, but why chain them to the car?
You know, finding somebody to pin it to is their job. That's because no, seriously, and this, it might sound stupid, but the reality is they want to close the loop as anybody else does in any corporate. It's like a support call, right? Literally, you get a support call and you want to close the loop on the support call and make sure that the person got the support they needed, and that's what happens. It's ridiculous. It's like and they don't care that they're actually messing with human lives. They don't.
Well, we saw that in New York recently, that you know, he chained him to the bumper like you were saying, but in New York we just saw recently that a guy tried to get away on a motorcycle and they threw a red cooler at him, knocked him off the cooler, and he died. So it's anything to get you.
Well, you know,
they do not care, man. They don't care.
Well, recently, a woman had this was in Ohio, stole something from a store, and can't remember the whole story, but she wound up dying and she was pregnant. It was just over.
You're talking about the 21-year-old woman. Okay,
Yeah.
so that video is out there. I've got it on my Twitter feed. So let me tell you the circumstances. She did steal something from the store. This is the circumstance that we're in.
Mhm.
People are starving, right?
Right.
She did steal something from the store, and the cops came up to her car because they had got a call that she had stole something from the store. Now, we've watched, how many videos have we watched where people have stole televisions from Walmarts and whatever else, right?
Right.
But she stole milk from the
No,
store.
she stole
Milk.
alcohol. Alcohol.
She's 21 years old and she's pregnant. She's 7 months pregnant.
That's
And that's justifying it all.
The cop gets in front of
Oh,
the
no, I
car.
know. That's
and
why I
points
always
a gun at
overschedule.
her. And because the car moved ahead 1 inch, he fires through the windshield and kills her.
6 inches away from her face. He shoots
Yep.
her. And this
That
is a
happened in
parallel.
Akron?
It was in Ohio, that's right. And this is a
Columbus.
parallel to Anthony Allegrini, a white kid. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter what your skin color is anymore. They just want to kill you. Anthony Allegrini was an 18-year-old kid, and he was at a street racing event where they were doing burnouts and stuff. He wasn't a part of the street racing event, and they shot him in the face just 6 inches from his windshield. And the cops, once again, exactly like Takira Young, I hope I'm saying her name properly, he was 6 inches away from Anthony Allegrini's face. Anthony Allegrini pulled out doing 1 mile an hour, 2 miles an hour, didn't want to stop for the pigs because, as you know, you stop for pigs, you get put in torture cuffs. I don't want to go in torture cuffs because these pigs want to detain me. And so he drove away as well, just like Takira did. Takira Young, is that her name? I want to make sure I give her the proper credit.
It is her name, but she wasn't even driving away. She was literally having a conversation. And you know how your foot's on the brake? She just started rolling forward like not even a mile per hour, and they shot her.
So, just so you know, Derek, I did a 2-hour video watching the police murder in slow motion of Takira Young. I broke it down frame by frame by frame because they claimed that they were in fear for their life. But the truth is that cop had put himself in a position he could have easily parried over to the left side of the right side.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Oh, yeah, I was in danger. Again, that's where Terry, okay? I'm in danger. That bullshit argument has got to end for these guys. Every single one of them. If you can't handle the danger of the job that you've accepted, then don't take the job.
Let me clarify for the people listening. What Derek is talking about right now, that, thank you for pointing that out. Terry versus Ohio makes officer safety more important than everything else. And so when Takira started to move forward, then they said that they were in fear for their lives, and officer safety is a policy created by the Supreme Court. Thanks for pointing that out, Derek.
It's so nauseating to me that
Did he point that
officer
out?
safety, because see, officer safety is I'm scared. Well, let me tell you something. And let me ask you, and everybody listening on this space, how many times in your life have you ever been scared enough to kill another human being? How many times?
Never.
And in case
done. Sorry, it's over. That argument is done. I'm so sick and tired of these people using that shit as a justification to kill human beings. I'm done with it. I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry. That's why I'm doing this Spaces.
Takaya Young, T-A apostrophe K-I-Y-A, Takaya Young, 21-year-old pregnant woman who had a couple more kids at home. And yeah, she was stealing milk. And you know what? Stealing milk is not a death sentence. I don't like the stealing and stuff that's going on, but I also don't like that we criminalize abortion and then lock up the baby formula. So
I'm sorry, if you have to in the United States of America, if you have to steal milk for your children, then there's something very, very wrong. We're sending billions to other countries to fight wars and kill people. I'm sorry, there is no such thing in the United States of America of a woman that can't feed her fucking children milk. I'm done. I'm done with it.
Well, look, I don't think anybody is like, yay, abortion. Like nobody is, it's not something we all go, yay, can't wait to abort a kid. But the simple fact of the matter is that we have created a system of haves and have-nots, and a lot of women, and I know I faced this when I was in college, we don't have any money. We have no way to make any money. And if she gets pregnant, my whole life is turned upside down and ruined. And that's what they taught us Gen Xers. If you had a baby when you were 18, 19, or 20, or even younger than that, that your life was ruined and it was over. And that's just not true. However, if you can't get baby formula and they go to great lengths to lock up the baby formula, then we can't exactly fund putting people in jail for wanting to have an abortion, because, they can't afford to feed that baby, and they won't allow them to even steal it. I'll tell you, Derek, there's going to be a day that I make it big enough where I'm going to have a baby formula center and people can just come in and get the baby formula.
I would love that, brother. I would support the living shit out of that, because, yeah, I just want to feed kids. I just want to feed people. I just want everybody to have what they need.
Weird.
I want to bring in Laws. Laws, I just brought you in. Jump up.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Hey, just a quick question. Where in the Constitution does it give judges the right to just legislate from the bench? Because I hear all the time about case law. Oh, because the Supreme Court ruled this. Now all of a sudden we all just got to abide by it. But to my understanding, that's not even the way the Constitution is supposed to be written. I just want y'all.
Well, this is going to go back to that rule of law standard that we talked about initially with the 5 pillars of the rule of law. And the first pillar is the government and it is accountable to the rule of law. So that's going to be lost in the 1951 case of Tenney versus Brandoff, Tenney versus Brandoff, Brandhove. Tenney versus Brandoff is what's going to give the judges and prosecutors qualified immunity. We often talk about police having qualified immunity and how dangerous that is. It's even more dangerous that we've given judge, prosecutors, and legislators who can write unconstitutional law, as long as they're working in a professional capacity, that they can write unconstitutional law and they have immunity for doing it. I must have hit a winner there. So if you want to know how the judges got all the power, research the case.
Oh, they are
Tenney
recording
versus Brandoff.
Good.
All right, I'll check that out. Appreciate it, Joey.
Done. See, this is why Chili comes on, because Chili will bring you the receipts.
I just took a long time to learn this stuff, Derek, and I don't have a photographic
brother.
memory, but pretty close. And then, the shocking part for
We
me,
definitely
Derek,
appreciate
is,
your grift
I'm
there,
pretty freaking
Chili.
conservative. I was raised pretty small town, pretty conservative. I was an altar boy growing up, Christian and Catholic altar boy. So I'm to research the laws in our country and then to find out that, Tenney versus Brandoff was created for power. But the majority of the laws that we're living under that have ruined our country were created specifically just for Black people, where it was wink, wink, tongue in cheek. You go back to the 1911 Sullivan Act in New York City, passed by an executive order by the governor of New York, Tim Sullivan, and it said that you had to have a permit to carry a gun in the city of New York. Well, that's because all the Blacks were moving out of the rural areas where they were getting murdered, moving into urban areas where there was more jobs, more industry. So we created the 1911 Sullivan Act with wink, wink, don't worry about it. It's not going to be applied to white people.
Dustin,
and they
thanks for,
decided that
liking
these
the
people would be
Facebook
allowed
stream.
to get gun licenses, but these people would not. And so that gun law from 1911 is still the standard across most states in America.
Gotta respect
you
his
have to get
grift, though,
permission
man.
from the police for you to be able to carry a concealed gun.
Not sure
It
if he
was
actually
passed
believes
100%
half of what he
for
says.
Black people. If you go to my website,
Do
Delete
respect the
Laws,
grift.
you can find on there for free 2 periodicals written by 2 different PhD students, The Racist Origins of Gun Control and The Racist Origins of Gun
Definitely
Laws.
on the spectrum.
And those 2 PDFs are 2 or 3 pages each. And you will literally see that all of our gun rights were infringed and have been infringed strictly to make sure that Blacks and Mexicans couldn't get guns.
No, I have no question about that. Being here and living in Mexico, Sarah and I, we have to go across the border quite often. And I want to bring a lot more attention to the border agents because, we have such an issue right now with illegal immigration, right? That millions are coming in. Chile, these people don't question a Mexican, a Nicaraguan, nothing. But they will handcuff and they will hold Sarah or me at a border at gunpoint and tell us that we can't record them. We are in a very different world than we thought we lived in. Law enforcement in the United States of America is out of control. Beyond.
Yeah, and Derek, I don't call them law enforcers. So just so everybody knows here, the process to becoming a pig, and TC can tell you this, is that you have to go what's called to POST, Peace Officer Standards and Training, or CLEAT, C-L-E-E-T, which has a different acronym, but it all stands for the same thing. And what it means is that you go and become a peace officer. You go to school, and every state has their peace officer standards and training. And then as soon as they graduate and they get their peace officer certificate, they magically become a law enforcer. And why is that? Would you rather be a peace officer or a law enforcer and put on all your G.I. Joe loser gear? So I don't refer to them as law enforcement, because when I think of the term law enforcement, I think of the 1704 South Carolina slave catchers that were specifically created to enforce slavery contracts for Southern plantation owners and slave owners. So the whole term law enforcement, if you use that term, I segue away from it. Even when I read Supreme Court cases and they'll say law enforcement, I just change that to cops or pigs or swine, and I think collectively, so I'll give you a simple example. Am I your husband, your protector, your lover, your partner, or am I your husband and you will listen to me and I am the boss of you and you will be subservient to me? If we go by those biblical, some of the things that are written in the Bible that are just written for a different era, that the programming is just wrong. You are not subservient to me. You're my partner. You're built from my rib. You are my equal and I am your equal, and I will protect you and you will provide for our family in the ways that only the woman can do. And so the words that we use calling these guys law enforcers, it just has to come to a brutal and swift end.
Oh, I agree with that, brother. I agree with that. That they call themselves law enforcement, but they're more feelings enforcement. I mean, I think we can agree with that they seem to be enforcing other people's feelings.
My drive home, no, I'm not done.
They like that authority, right? They like to be able to mess with
I got to go to the other plant from here.
So I think this has been an
I'm going to be ending this,
amazingly
even if this isn't over
important
by 5
space
o'clock.
to have a conversation about this
15 minutes.
exact subject. And I got to tell you, Chili, you ever get down to Arizona area, we'll do a joint operation down here at the border. I've already had many conversations with them, which I've recorded. And I can tell you right now, I've never seen people more than these people right here at the border. If you're Mexican or you're from Nicaragua, they'll let you walk right through. But if you're an American, they will destroy you.
I have a video, Derek, of a checkpoint I went through 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and they detained me at the checkpoint and they started to treat me bad. But I was on American soil. I had already come across the Mexican border. And so I have a video of this really intense, horrific back and forth where one of the Mexican border patrols decided he wanted to fight me. So I said, well, you got enough Mexicans here. Just drop the badge and gun and let's go. You want to go? Let's do it. And there was a very scary moment there.
Well, the Mexican side, I can actually deal with the Mexican side. You know why? Because you can negotiate with them, right? I can pay them, 500 pesos and we can go away. But Americans are different. They're there for a different currency. These border agents are there to fuck your world over. And it's very weird. It's like, wait, I'm an American. Why are you being so aggressive towards me? They handcuff us. If I go across the border, I'm handcuffed. Sarah, who's co-host on here, she goes across the border, they drag her out of the car and handcuff her. Every time.
They put her in torture cuffs?
Every single time.
Yes,
Sarah,
they did.
Sarah, do you tell your story? These people are way out of control, man.
Yeah, well, my issue is with the San Luis border. And Chili, I did email you, I think like a couple of weeks ago, and explained more in detail my last 2 encounters at this border. The first of which, of the last 2, I was forced to go to secondary again. I have no criminal record. I answered all their questions at the primary. They detained me there for 1 hour and 40 minutes while they searched my car. And then every time, they always do the sexual molestation to me, right? Where they take me in the room, broke my crotch, my breasts, everything, pat me down like a criminal. The last time I recorded, and they told me to stop recording, blah, 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 then told me I was going to secondary. I said, no, I don't want to go to secondary again. This is bullshit. They do this to me every time. He reached in, shut my car off, ripped my phone out of my hand, demanded I get out of the car, and I sat there for a minute deciding if this was going to be my stand or not. Decided it was not my stand at that moment. So I got out. They shoved me against my car and cuffed me and took me to secondary and pat me down again, then stuck me in a holding cell for about 20 to 30 minutes and made me delete the video off of my phone before they let me go.
There was American cops that made you delete a video?
Yes, they were Border Patrol agents, yes.
Were you on American soil at that time?
I was at the, yes, I was crossed over to where their secondary is.
There is no such thing as an American being on anything but American soil when they're conducting these operations. They are always on American soil.
What steps did you take after that? Did you file a formal complaint?
On that one, I have not yet. I did for the one where they kept me for an hour and 40 minutes while everybody else came in after me and got to leave and got to, I did a FOIA request for that. I still have not received that. Just kind of not sure how to go about doing what they did to me this last time. I have no proof of it. They do because they have cameras, so I'd have to do a FOIA request for that.
Okay, cool. So Sarah, and the best service I can do for everybody listening right now is just recently I put out a video. I just released it into its own little video form. It's an hour long, and it teaches you how to use ChatGPT to file your FOIAs and to file your body cam requests. So if everybody goes and watches that video, you will learn how to do it through ChatGPT. You don't have to be intelligent. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be sharp. ChatGPT will do all the work for you. And by the end of this coming weekend, I'll have delete laws /FOIA, where you can go to the website, pull the FOIA code for your state that you're in, and then then you copy paste it into ChatGPT, and I teach you the steps of how to get your FOIA or your body camera demand for return of property. And everybody has to learn how to do this. It is so easy. It used to be so hard. I even started one time on my website where I would do custom demand for return of property or body cam footage for people. I didn't charge anybody a dime ever. There was a price on there like $10 or something. We never charged anybody. We just did it. So now with ChatGPT, Sarah, you have to go there, watch that video, learn how to file your FOIA, and then just go nuts because ChatGPT writes it for you. You copy, paste, and put it on a piece of paper and send it in. It is so easy.
Awesome.
No,
I will check that out. Thank you.
Yeah,
Chili.
we will do that. But Chili, you gotta, next.
It only
time
knows
you're in
what
this
it's been
area,
told.
southern
It's been told
Arizona,
mostly
you're anywhere near this area,
left-leaning
come through because I'll have
bullshit.
15 freaking cameras set
But
up.
filling out forms
All
help.
right?
ChatGPT can pass the bar exam.
Yeah, that would be really great. I want to go through there. I want to drive through the border. I've got a bunch of cameras in my car. I'm all set up. I pretty much created the same kind of bait that Chuck Bronson has.
I'll screw my drive
because I don't want
to
these
the restaurant
thug pigs to
where
get
I'm gonna
away
eat
with
dinner.
using me. So I have to drive down there with my van, and I'm not too far.
No, I
I'm
don't.
between
I
LA
had
and
that
Vegas
premiere.
quite a bit, so
I
I'll
burned
get
them
down
up.
there.
Well, come on down here. We're in San Luis. You come on Rio, Colorado, so you can come through right through San Luis. We've got a house here, right? So we've got 4 bedrooms and it's air conditioned, and you can enjoy yourself here for the weekend and enjoy yourself and enjoy some good tacos, and then we can go and document these assholes at the border.
I have a 2 o'clock. I have a hard 2 o'clock. I got to step out, guys. But I just want to say thank you to everybody for having me. Derek, thank you. God
Yeah,
bless.
brother, I
It
love
stands
you.
for
Thank you
Generative
coming. And
Pre-Trained
Brian's not here. I just want to
Transformer.
thank everybody for joining. This is a great conversation, an important one. And you know what? And Chili, anytime, look, everybody go and follow Chili right now.
Basically through
On Twitter,
OpenAI.
he doesn't have a lot of followers, but everywhere else, he's got millions.
I got a lot of trolls.
Yeah, no idea.
I got a lot of
Yeah,
trolls.
I'm getting close.
of course,
I need to get out on
you're
the
getting a
road
lot
and
of
actually do
trolls
some
here
road
on Twitter.
stuff.
You really want to fight cops? Go to my Instagram
I'm
account.
like
There's
32 people.
Instagram
There,
is full of
500.
cops.
It ain't gonna matter
No
because
idea.
my strike
Oh, it's awesome.
is
I
on me
love you,
until
Chili.
October.
I really, truly adore and
As long as I
appreciate the work that you do. I
bring them
truly
together
do.
about that
Thanks for
time.
having me, guys.
Yeah,
It'd
brother.
be
So,
nice,
hey, everybody.
nice to be
I'll
at
let
500.
Ronnie go, and we'll
Looks
just
like he's
end
ending
this
this.
here and leave it with Chili
Yeah.
and everyone. I know there's
See
some
you,
hands
Chili.
raised. CZ, Chili, if you
Oh,
want
yeah.
to go away,
I'll listen to the. I can listen. I just at 2 o'clock I have a hard hour.
No, I understand. Let's
Julie just followed me on
just
Twitter.
really quick.
I want to hear what these people have to say.
Yeah,
I appreciate listening.
CZ has another question, and I believe Patrick had another question. Let's go to CZ first, really quick.
All right. Anna's not in there anymore, so I'm going to leave. If you guys are interested in this,
And I didn't have any
I think
problems.
I already shared it once, but I'll do it again.
Changed the problems with Americans going back and forth across the Mexican border. Does anyone know?
Yeah, they hate you.
I won't go back across there again. My daughter-in-law is Mexican, and at the time, they were getting married in Laredo, and I wanted to, just go across the border and buy a few things because, products there are a little bit cheaper.
Right,
but I didn't have any problem.
So I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you, everybody who did participate in the chat, and I'm going to play my outro, which I got to keep it locked into StreamYard. I have to make it a little bit smaller. It's over 200 megabytes, so I have to play it as a video file. But no piggies today. Today would have been a good day for it, but I'm still excited about this, and I'm going to play it again on my way out. I may go live on DOCNation since I've used up my notifications for today, just for the drive. It's only like 40 minute drive to where I eat before I go to my next job site. So here it is. I'll leave at the end of this. Everybody, thank you for coming. Thank you for the solid chat, and thank you, Anna, for letting us know about that Spaces. That was pretty cool. Oklahoma, I know you're probably gone. I played your videos. That's what happens generally. I play your videos and you're gone, but I appreciate you. Later's West Side. Here we go.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad. After her there ain't no coming back. Wanna take a run at that. I think she's feeling me, turn it up a few degrees. My imagination of her body gets the best of me. Oh gosh, she's such a tease, bitten lips, bruised knees. I'm addicted to her, need her touching me, cause she got a bad little waist. And we tearing down this place, off the liquor that we chase. Casamigos to the face, baby, I don't need no space. Coming closer for a taste, and I'll show you how I make everything just fade away. Cause she's like sex, drugs, cocaine, body so insane. Jealous of the clothing that she wears up on that tight frame. All game, no shame, baby came here to play. I feel like an addict cause she's sex, drugs, cocaine. Got a fine little body and her mind's kinda naughty. They say that once you taste it, you cannot replace it. She could get you high, all the dopamine inside triggers fast once she's naked. Her body's a creation. They say the devil made her for his entertainment, but even he couldn't learn how to contain it. Her high heels make a damn good statement. There is no replacement, a body by Satan. Cause she got a bad little waist, and we tearing down this place. Off the liquor that we chase, Casamigos to the face, baby, I don't need no space. Coming closer for a taste, and I'll show you how I make everything just fade away. Cause she's like sex, drugs, cocaine, body so insane. Jealous of the clothing that she wears up on her tight frame. All game, no shame, baby came here to play. I feel like an addict cause she's sex, drugs, cocaine.